Chapter 879. Swoosh. The golden hand grabbed Tuobaru and dragged him back to the third prince. No matter how hard he struggled, he could not break free from the grasp of the golden hand. "Godfather, please let me go. Godfather, please spare my life. I don't want to die." Tuobaru was terrified. As he struggled, he begged for mercy and cried for help. However, the third prince did not show any mercy. He threw Tuobaru into the magical treasure of the venomous insect Origin. Swoosh! A ball of golden light wrapped around Tuobaru and flew into the magical treasure. Before he landed, the sky-swallowing beast, who was sleeping on the ground, was awakened. As if it had smelled its prey, the sky-swallowing beast, which was as huge as a mountain, raised its head and opened its mouth to bite Tuobaru. The heaven-swallowing beast's bloody mouth could swallow an entire palace in one gulp. Its huge mouth was filled with sharp teeth that were as sharp as swords and sabers. It could crush everything into pieces. However, Tuobaru was pitifully small in front of the sky-swallowing beast. The sky-swallowing beast swallowed him, and was about to chew him up and swallow him into its stomach. At this moment, the third prince activated the power of the magical treasure of the venomous insect Origin and used the Heaven Capital Blood Fusion technique. It released an endless amount of blood-red light and enveloped the sky-swallowing beast. The sky-swallowing beast's body stiffened and its head hit the ground heavily. The mysterious blood-red light wrapped around its body and melted its flesh and essence. Tuobaru, who was swallowed by the sky-swallowing beast, was also corroded by the blood-red light and melted into a blood-red light. The two combined under the catalysis of the Heaven Capital Blood Fusion technique and continued to fuse with each other, resulting in some strange changes. As the third prince continued to activate the secret technique, the sky-swallowing beast and Tuobaru turned into a huge blood-red ball of light and slowly merged together. Time passed silently. The third prince continued to use the Heaven Capital Blood Fusion technique, and his power was depleted rapidly. After 6 hours, he had used up more than half of his power and his face had turned pale. However, he did not make a sound and continued to persevere silently. 10 hours later, when he had used up 80% of his power and his body was extremely weak, the Heaven Capital Blood Fusion technique was finally completed. He slowly retracted his hands and stopped circulating his energy. He sat on the throne and secretly gasped for breath. The heaven-swallowing beast and Tuobaru were also undergoing tremendous changes in the magical treasure space in the myriad goo Origin. Shwa! The dark red light suddenly shrank from the size of a mountain peak to about 2 meters. The sky-swallowing beast disappeared, leaving Tuobaru alone in the Dharma treasure space. There was no obvious change in his appearance. He was still 2 meters tall, with a head full of red hair. His body was burly and strong, and his whole body exuded a valiant aura. However, he stood quietly in the space of the artifact, neither shouting nor making a fuss, appearing somewhat sluggish and strange. Upon closer inspection, one would discover that his appearance had changed after fusing with the heaven-devouring beast. His skin turned dark and was covered with many dark red bumps. A pair of wide black wings extended from his back. His mouth became flat and wide. His teeth were like the fangs of a wild beast, making him look ferocious. The biggest change was in his stomach. It had turned into a huge mouth the size of a washbasin and was filled with terrifyingly sharp teeth. In the past, he looked like a rugged and valiant young man from the demon tribe. But now, he had completely turned into a monster. He looked ferocious and terrifying. More importantly, his eyes and movements had become sluggish, just like a puppet. There was no doubt that this was the Heaven Capital puppet that the third prince had mentioned. The third prince waved his hand and shot out a beam of golden light. He took Tuobaru out of the Dharma treasure space and placed him in the secret chamber. He sized up Tuobaru carefully and used his spiritual senses to check Tuobaru's strength. he immediately sensed the aura of the heaven-devouring beast. This is great. The heaven-devouring beast and Tuoba have fused perfectly. This legendary celestial capital puppet would definitely give everyone a big surprise. Who would have thought that this seemingly dull young man from the demon tribe would turn into a heaven-devouring beast in an instant? Ji Tianxing, your death has come. The third prince muttered to himself, and a sinister smile flashed across his eyes. Not long after, he calmed down and gave an order to Tuoba in a dignified voice. My men have been keeping an eye on Zhongzhou City and the imperial residence. As long as Ji Tianxing leaves Zhongzhou City, you will go and capture him for me. I will let him die in endless pain and torture. I will also use his blood as a sacrifice to my altar. Tuoba was expressionless. He bowed stiffly and said, Yes, sir. The third prince looked satisfied and his lips curled into a sinister smile. 3 days passed quickly. Ji Tianxing and Yun Yao were busy in the imperial residence for 3 days and finally finished the matter of the invitations. That night, the two of them sat down in the study to discuss matters. Ji Tianxing looked at Yun Yao and said, Yao, the matter of the invitations is over for now. We have considered the people who should be invited. Tomorrow morning, I will go to Cloud Soul Palace to visit my father and bring him to the imperial residence. After all, when we get married, I will go to Cloud Soul Palace to marry you. During this period of time, my father cannot stay in Cloud Soul Palace. Otherwise, it would be against etiquette and people would laugh at him. Yun Yao nodded and said, That's true. Then I will go back with you tomorrow? There is no need for that. Ji Tianxing shook his head and said with a smile, You will stay in the imperial residence for now. There are still some trivial matters to take care of. When the matters in Zhongzhou City are taken care of, you can go back to Cloud Soul Palace to prepare and wait for me to marry you. Yun Yao looked at him with a gentle gaze. She revealed a faint smile and nodded in agreement. Although the two of them had yet to get married, the two of them were together day and night and their hearts were connected. They already had the tacit understanding of a husband and wife who respected each other. After discussing this matter, Yun Yao reminded Ji Tianxing to be careful. Then, she got up and left, returning to Yun Yao Palace. The night quickly passed. Early the next morning, Ji Tianxing left the imperial residence. When the sun rose, he had already left Zhongzhou City and was rushing towards Cloud Soul Palace as fast as lightning. Now that he was even more powerful, his speed was also much faster. He flew high in the sky by himself. As time passed, he crossed thousands of mountains and rivers. On this night, the night sky was filled with stars and the moon was bright and clear. He had already traveled half the distance. He would arrive at Cloud Soul Palace tomorrow morning. At this time, he was flying above a vast mountain range. Within a few hundred miles, there were no villages or people. This place was very desolate. At this time, in the night sky in front of him, a dark red flame suddenly appeared. It was as fast as lightning. Ji Tianxing immediately felt that something was wrong. When he saw the dark red flame, he immediately frowned. Could it be the remnants of the demon race coming to take revenge on me? He slowed down his flying speed and looked at the blood-red light with a sharp gaze. After a while, the blood-red light flew in front of him and stopped 1,000 meters away. Chapter 880. Swoosh. After the dark red light faded, a figure appeared. It was a tall and sturdy young man with a head full of red hair. He looked to be about 16 or 17 years old. He was wearing a dark red robe. His face was gloomy, and his whole body was exuding a fierce, murderous aura. Although he only stood quietly in the night sky and stared at Ji Tianxing, there was an invisible aura of pressure that enveloped a radius of several thousand meters. Ji Tianxing frowned and looked at the red-haired young man. A cold light flashed in his eyes. This young man from the demon clan looks familiar. Where have I seen him before? He tried to recall it in his mind and immediately remembered it. When he was in the ancient star realm, Yun Yao went missing. He went to the Tianjin sect in anger and fought with this red-haired young man. He clearly remembered that this young man from the demon clan was called Tuoba Rui. Tuoba Rui, the Tianjin sect. Ji Tianxing repeated these two names in his heart. He remembered that Yen had told him that the Tianjin sect was also a puppet force controlled by the third prince. He immediately understood that this Tuoba Rui must be related to the third prince. Thinking of this, he sneered and said, "Tuoba Rui, are you Long Zitian's lackey?" Tuoba Rui didn't respond. He stood quietly in the night sky. His body was accumulating violent power, and his murderous aura was getting stronger and stronger. Ji Tianxing saw that Tuoba Rui's eyes and expression were a little dull. He couldn't help but be puzzled. He shouted, "Tuoba Rui, how dare an idiot like you intercept me alone? Where is Long Zitian? Why doesn't he do it himself? Could it be that he was injured too badly in the buried star sea and is still recovering?" Tuoba Rui finally responded. He stared at him with blood-red eyes, and a cold word came out of his mouth full of sharp teeth. "Die!" As soon as he finished speaking, his figure flashed and turned into a dark red light that charged toward Ji Tianxing. Swoosh! The blood-red light was over 100 feet long, like a violent and domineering saber light, illuminating the night sky within a radius of 20 miles. Half of the sky turned dark red, and the smell of blood filled the sky. The power contained in the saber radiance could be said to be destructive. Ji Tianxing's expression suddenly changed, revealing a look of disbelief. A year ago, Tuoba Rui had not reached the sky origin stage. Now, he has reached the soul cultivation stage? How was this possible? Something is definitely wrong. As this thought flashed through his mind, he closed his wings without hesitation to protect himself. Wings of the Golden Rock. Boom! The huge dark red saber light slammed into the golden wings, and an earth-shattering boom rang out, spreading for dozens of miles. Ji Tianxing was sent flying back 1,000 meters before he managed to neutralize the violent impact and stood steadily in the night sky. Within 1 year, Tuoba Rui has broken through the sky origin stage and reached the soul tempering stage. This is impossible. There is definitely something wrong with him. He must have used the evil secret technique of the demon clan to increase his strength in such a short time. Realizing that there was something wrong with Tuoba Rui's strength, Ji Tianxing immediately used the White Heart Demon Suppression Art and activated the White Heart Dharma Eye. His eyes immediately turned golden as he stared at Tuoba Rui, trying to see through him. The White Heart Dharma Eye was used to suppress the demon clan. As long as Tuoba Rui's change was related to the demon clan, it would not escape his eyes. However, after Ji Tianxing used the White Heart Dharma Eye to observe Tuoba Rui, he did not find anything unusual. Tuoba Rui did not have the aura of the demon clan, nor did he practice any demon clan technique. However, the heaven-mending orb in Ji Tianxing's mind had a subtle reaction. With the help of the heaven-mending orb, he felt a strong aura of a mutated beast from Tuoba Rui's body. That strange yet familiar aura immediately reminded him of the powerful and violent mutated beasts from the ancient era in the buried star sea. How could this be? How could Tuoba Rui be related to those mutated beasts from the ancient era? Ji Tianxing was puzzled and confused. However, he did not have the time to think about it. "Kill!" Tuoba Rui shouted angrily with a ferocious face. Then, he rushed over like a shooting star. He flapped the wings on his back and his body was burning with bloody flames. He waved his palms and shot out dozens of bloody light pillars toward Ji Tianxing. Ji Tianxing did not have time to think and immediately counterattacked. Metal Emperor Slash! He unleashed all of his power and released a giant golden sword that was 100 meters long. He slashed it toward Tuoba Rui. The giant golden sword collided with the dozens of bloody light pillars. Bang! 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 Loud bangs echoed in the night sky. In the blink of an eye, the giant golden sword and the bloody light pillars collapsed. They exploded into pieces of light and scattered in the night sky. The night sky within a radius of dozens of miles was illuminated by the pieces of light. Violent shockwaves spread out in all directions like ripples. Ji Tianxing and Tuoba were both pushed back. They flew backward for a few miles before they could stop. Roar! Tuoba had just steadied himself when he flapped his wings again. He roared and rushed over again. Once again, he released the bloody flames and sword radiance that covered the sky. Ji Tianxing was immediately covered by the sword radiance and sword radiant. His body was also engulfed. He quickly used the white tiger sacred sword. His body lit up with golden light and merged with the golden light to form a giant golden sword. The giant sword was burning with golden flames, and the shadow of a white tiger appeared. It charged toward Tuoba in an unstoppable and violent manner. Bang! 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 Ji Tianxing's white tiger sacred sword shattered countless sword radiance and sword radiance. It passed through the bloody flames that covered the sky. In the end, the white tiger's sacred sword hit Tuoba and there was a loud bang. Tuoba was sent flying backward. He rolled and fell toward the mountain peak that was 10 miles away. Boom! He ruthlessly smashed into the mountain peak, smashing it into smithereens and turning it into ruins. Dust flew in all directions. A huge crack appeared on the mountain peak. The shaking of the mountain lasted for a long time before it calmed down. However, Ji Tianxing flew to the top of the mountain peak and was about to check on Tuoba condition. Swoosh! A ray of bloody light flew out from the ruins and shot up into the sky. Tuoba appeared in the night sky, unharmed. He charged toward Ting Qingshan again. Seeing this, Ji Tianxing frowned. Tuoba is indeed at the soul-tempering realm. He is on par with Long Zitian. This thought flashed through Ting Qingshan's mind. His expression turned serious. Tuoba was only 100 meters away from him when he was right in front of him. Ting Qingshan immediately activated the thunder spiritual eye on his forehead and was about to release the violent power of thunder to attack Tuoba. However, at this moment Tuoba, who was surrounded by bloody radiance, suddenly let out a roar. His body instantly expanded by 1,000 times. Swoosh! In the blink of an eye, Tuoba turned into a ferocious beast that was as huge as a mountain. Chapter 881. Ji Tianxing had sensed the aura of an ancient mutated beast from Tuoba. However, he did not expect Tuoba to turn into a terrifying beast in the blink of an eye. When he sensed that something was wrong and wanted to escape, it was already too late. This dark red, scaly, barrel-shaped beast opened its horrifying mouth and swallowed him in an instant. His vision turned black, and he was already in the mouth of the terrifying beast. At that moment, he felt like he was in a spacious cave. There was no light around him. The sound of water splashing could be heard. It was the corrosive mucus in the beast's mouth that flowed down the walls of the cave. He was stepping on muscles that were as hard as steel plates. They were uneven and covered with fine barbs. This was the beast's mouth. 100 meters in front of him, there were rows of razor-sharp teeth that glinted coldly in the darkness. Those were the beast's teeth. They could chew anything into pieces. The beast's mouth was tightly shut. Countless rows of razor-sharp teeth were closed. There was no gap. He could not escape at all. Ji Tianxing had never experienced such an experience in his life. This was the first time he had been swallowed by a giant beast and was trapped inside its body. He did not have time to think about how Tuoba had turned into a ferocious and terrifying beast. The most important thing now was to find a way to escape from the beast's mouth. He had to escape. At the same time, after the heaven-swallowing beast swallowed Ji Tianxing, it flapped its 4 pairs of wide wings and flew into the distance. It was obvious that the heaven-swallowing beast had captured Ji Tianxing. It wanted to report back to the third prince. The heaven-swallowing beast's body was 1,000 meters long. It was like a huge mountain. It looked very ferocious and cumbersome. However, it was extremely fast. Its body was surrounded by bloody flames. In the blink of an eye, it could fly 10 miles away. It was like a dark red shooting star that cut across the night sky. It flew back to Zhongzhou at lightning speed. Ji Tianxing was trapped in the heaven-swallowing beast's mouth. His situation was getting more and more dangerous. The air was filled with the pungent smell of blood and a foul stench. There were also strands of 5-colored brilliance, which contained deadly poison. Thick viscous liquid kept dripping down from the top of his head, landing on his true essence shield and corroding a large hole in it. Not only that, the heaven-devouring beast casually swallowed Ji Tianxing, and a torrential hurricane swept up from its mouth, wrapping around Ji Tianxing as it flew toward its throat. Ji Tianxing was like a scrap of food in its mouth. He was very insignificant and completely powerless to resist. Damn bastard! You want to eat me? Let's see if you have the ability to do so. He was filled with anger, and his entire body was filled with a strong killing intent. Metal Slash. He activated the power of the sword embryo and released a dazzling giant sword of golden light. He slammed it against the side wall of the cave. That was the mouth of the heaven-swallowing beast. Compared to the other parts of its body, there were fewer bones and its defense was weaker. Boom! The giant sword of golden light slammed into the dark red cave wall and instantly exploded with a loud, dull sound. The giant sword of golden light created a huge crater in the cave wall. Countless pieces of flesh and blood flew out, revealing eerie white bones. However, the cave wall was not destroyed, and the giant sword of golden light was also shattered by the powerful impact. The heaven-swallowing beast let out a furious roar in pain. Roar! An earth-shattering roar shook the night sky within a 100-mile radius, reverberating in the sky. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Ji Tianxing immediately exploded with his fastest speed and escaped from the heaven-swallowing beast's giant mouth. However, before he could rush out, the heaven-swallowing beast's bloody mouth closed. Moreover, the heaven-swallowing beast took a deep breath and exploded with a terrifying devouring power. A dark red hurricane immediately appeared in its mouth and enveloped Ji Tianxing, flying deep into its throat. Swoosh! Ji Tianxing was unable to resist the violent hurricane. In the blink of an eye, he passed through the heaven-swallowing beast's throat and entered its stomach. The heaven-swallowing beast's throat was like a dark red tunnel. It was more than 200 meters wide and hundreds of meters long. And its stomach was like a huge cave with a radius of hundreds of meters. It was very spacious. This dark red spacious cave was filled with countless stinky dark red mucus and many food scraps. There was also an endless amount of dark red flames that were surging violently. Ji Tianxing had just entered the cave. Before he could see his surroundings clearly, he was enveloped by an overwhelming amount of blood-red flames. The heaven-swallowing beast's stomach churned a few times, and countless dark red mucus surged forward like a huge wave, drowning Ji Tianxing. Golden rock wings. Ji Tianxing did not have time to think. He instinctively closed his wings and used all his strength to resist the invasion of the blood-red flames and dark red mucus. Boom! The layer of golden light on the surface of his wings was immediately shattered by the blood-red flames. The power of the two wings was quickly exhausted. They became dim and lusterless, retracting back into his body. The dark red mucus wrapped around his body like a huge wave, crazily corroding his true essence shield. In the blink of an eye, the true essence shield he had formed with all his strength was riddled with holes by the mucus. The dark red mucus immediately stained his body, dyeing his white robe red. Just a drop of mucus had corroded a fist-sized hole in his back. His ultimate sword body, which he had tempered countless times, was actually unable to resist the corrosion of the dark red mucus. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianxing's expression changed dramatically, revealing a look of deep shock. What kind of strange beast is this? It actually has such terrifying power? It's just the mucus in its stomach. Even my wings and ultimate sword body can't resist it? Ji Tianxing realized that he could not stay in the giant beast's stomach for long. Otherwise, he would quickly be corroded into mucus or become food scrap. He used all his true essence to explode, shaking away the dark red mucus and blood-red flames around him. Then, he used all his strength to execute his ultimate killer move. Sword of Judgment. The sword embryo in his body flew out, turning into a 30-meter-long giant sword with a dazzling golden light. The giant sword was surrounded by golden flames, condensing into a pair of wings. Kill! Ji Tianxing roared angrily, controlling the Sword of Judgment, exploding with its strongest power, fiercely slamming into the dark red cave wall a few hundred meters away. That dark red cave wall was the stomach of the heaven-swallowing beast. It was extremely sturdy. Bang! With a muffled sound, the Sword of Judgment hit the cave wall, exploding into a sky full of bloody light, splattering countless pieces of flesh and blood. The heaven-swallowing beast's stomach was blasted into a 10-meter-wide crater, and dozens of bones were shattered. However, the Sword of Judgment was unable to penetrate the heaven-swallowing beast's stomach. It was even sent flying back. Ji Tianxing's face was pale as he turned the Sword of Judgment back into the sword embryo, putting it back into his stomach. Blood immediately flowed from the corner of his mouth. Obviously, his internal organs had been injured by the impact. However, the heaven-swallowing beast's injuries were insignificant to it. It did not affect its movements at all. Roar! It only felt a sharp pain and let out an angry roar, twisting its body fiercely a few times. Chapter 882. Although the heaven-swallowing beast only twisted its body a few times. However, its stomach was in turmoil and the commotion was shocking. Endless blood flames and dark red mucus immediately drowned Ji Tianxing. He had seen the power of the blood flames and dark red mucus, and of course he did not dare to resist. He quickly took out the seal of mountains and rivers. Swoosh! With a flash of golden light, the seal of mountains and rivers appeared out of thin air and expanded to the size of a house. Ji Tianxing's figure flashed and entered the seal of mountains and rivers. In the next moment, the blood flames and dark red mucus drowned the seal of mountains and rivers. Bam! With a deafening sound, the golden light of the seal of mountains and rivers was shattered by the blood flames. The seal of mountains and rivers became much dimmer, and its power was rapidly weakening. The dark red mucus wrapped around the seal of mountains and rivers and crazily corroded the seal of mountains and rivers, causing the golden seal to quickly turn dark gold. Fortunately, the seal of mountains and rivers was a high-grade soul-level magic treasure. Its material was tough and its defensive power was very strong. In a short time, the heaven-swallowing beast could not corrode the seal of mountains and rivers. Ji Tianxing hid in the seal of mountains and rivers space and was temporarily safe. But this was not a long-term solution. The seal of mountains and rivers' power could not last for too long. He had to find a way to escape from the heaven-swallowing beast's stomach as soon as possible. Otherwise, the seal of mountains and rivers would be corroded sooner or later. Moreover, the heaven-swallowing beast was rushing back to the central region. Ji Tianxing did not need to guess to know that the heaven-swallowing beast must be returning to report to the third prince. If he did not escape as soon as possible, he would fall into the third prince's hands before the seal of mountains and rivers was damaged. With the third prince's powerful strength and methods, and that Gu Dao divine artifact, he could definitely kill him. Thinking of this, Ji Tianxing was secretly anxious. He could not leave the seal of mountains and rivers for now, so he forced himself to calm down and controlled the seal of mountains and rivers to fly in the heaven-swallowing beast's stomach. He had to carefully observe the heaven-swallowing beast's stomach and find any possible weak points to have a chance to escape. Swoosh! The seal of mountains and rivers broke through the seal of the blood flames and mucus and flew in the heaven-swallowing beast's stomach. Ji Tianxing released his spiritual sense and carefully observed the dark red cave wall, looking for a weak spot in the defense. The walls of the cave were covered with densely packed stripes and ravines. There were also countless protruding bones. Logically speaking, that was the inner cavity of the heaven-swallowing beast's abdomen. It should be the weakest part of its defense. However, Ji Tianxing had already tried just now. Even if he used the Sword of Judgment, he still couldn't pierce through it. He could only leave a wound that wasn't too serious. In the short span of 100 breaths, the heaven-devouring beast used its powerful self-healing ability to rapidly heal that wound. Seeing this result, Ji Tianxing could only temporarily give up on the idea of attacking. He controlled the seal of mountains and rivers and continued to fly through the heaven-devouring beast's stomach, patiently searching. A moment later, he controlled the seal of mountains and rivers and flew into the deepest part of the heaven-devouring beast's stomach. He saw a ball of white light flickering in the depths of the dark cave. Puzzled, he controlled the seal of mountains and rivers and flew over. When he got closer, he realized that the ball of white light was a white ball of light. It was enveloped and suppressed by an endless dark red light. In the white ball of light there was a ball of grayish-white fog. It was the soul white fog. Swoosh! The seal of mountains and rivers stopped in front of the white ball of light. Ji Tianxing observed the ball of soul white fog at a close distance. Strange. Why is there a ball of soul white fog in the stomach of this ancient giant beast? Could it be that some unlucky person was swallowed into its stomach, his body was corroded and digested, and his soul was left behind? Ji Tianxing was full of doubts. He stared at the ball of soul white fog without blinking. At this moment, the ball of soul white fog that was motionless seemed to have sensed something and started to change. Swoosh! The white fog rolled violently a few times and condensed into a 5-inch tall little person. The appearance of the little soul person was very vivid and lifelike. Ji Tianxing took a closer look. After seeing its appearance clearly, he was instantly stunned. This was because it was a burly demon youth. Its face was exactly the same as Tuoba Rui's. This is Tuoba Rui's soul white fog? Could it be that he was swallowed by the sky-swallowing beast? This is impossible. He turned into the sky-swallowing beast just now. How could this be? This is too strange. Ji Tianxing frowned in confusion. He could not figure it out. At this moment, the little soul person in the white ball of light also stared at the seal of mountains and rivers. Its face was distorted as it roared. Ji Tianxing, you don't have to hide. I know it must be you. It's all because of you, you bastard, that I ended up in such a miserable state. Now, you have also been swallowed by the sky-swallowing beast. We are all going to die. Ha ha. The little soul person could not make a sound. It could only send out soul waves. Ji Tianxing's soul was unusually strong. He could clearly sense its soul aura and hear its roar that was filled with hatred and resentment. He immediately frowned and thought to himself, so this giant beast is the legendary sky-swallowing beast. This kind of ancient beast was said to be able to devour everything. It was easy for it to swallow the mountains and rivers within a radius of 100 miles. When the sky-swallowing beast grows to its peak, it is comparable to a primordial soul realm expert. It can overturn rivers and seas and create chaos. This ancient beast only exists in the buried star sea. I know. Long Zitian went to the buried star sea to find the sky-swallowing beast. Although Ji Tianxing had never seen the sky-swallowing beast before, he had heard of the legends. Now, not only did he know the identity of this giant beast, but he also saw how terrifying the sky-swallowing beast was. At the same time, he finally understood why the third prince had gone to the buried star sea. I didn't expect that bastard Long Zitian to find the sky-swallowing beast in the buried star sea. It's a pity that he didn't die in the buried star sea. Ji Tianxing cursed the third prince with a heart full of hatred. He wished he could tear the third prince into pieces. He quickly calmed down and stared at Tuoba Rui in the white ball of light. He asked in a low voice, Tuoba Rui, what is going on? Didn't you merge with the sky-swallowing beast? Why is your soul trapped here? Tuoba Rue stared angrily at the seal of mountains and rivers and remained silent. Ji Tianxing frowned and asked in a low voice, Tuoba Rue, aren't you Long Zitian's subordinate? Isn't this Long Zitian's scheme? If I'm not wrong, Long Zitian must have gone to the buried star sea to capture the sky-swallowing beast. He then borrowed the power of the origin of all venomous insects and used a secret technique to merge you with the sky-swallowing beast. When you merge with the sky-swallowing beast, you will become stronger and easier for Long Zitian to control and work for him. Ji Tianxing spoke frankly with assurance. His tone was calm and confident, containing an unquestionable certainty. However, before he could finish, Tuoba Rue interrupted him and shouted angrily, Bullshit! You self-righteous fool, what do you know? How can you imagine Long Zitian's savagery and viciousness? With your strength and intelligence, how can you fight him? You are dead. We will all die. Chapter 883. Tuoba Rue's anger and resentment made Ji Tianxing vaguely understand one thing. It seems like Tuoba Rue didn't merge with the sky-devouring beast willingly. If that's the case, Long Zitian must have used Tuoba Rue as a sacrifice to achieve his goal. Ji Tianxing sensed an opportunity and took the opportunity to get information from Tuoba Rue. Tuoba Rue, you have such strength at such a young age and you even merged with the sky-devouring beast. It seems like Long Zitian thinks highly of you. You should be happy that you merged with the sky-devouring beast and became so strong. Why are you so angry with Long Zitian? Think highly of my ass. Tuoba Rue stared at Ji Tianxing angrily and growled, You idiot! You don't know anything and you're talking nonsense here. I'm really curious. With your strength and intelligence, how did you destroy the Duanmu family and escape from Long Zitian's attack? Ji Tianxing looked at him calmly. He was neither angry nor retorted. Tuoba Rue's reaction made him feel more and more interested. There must be more to it. Therefore, he said to Tuoba Rue, it seems like you hate Long Zitian a lot. Did he force you to sacrifice yourself and let the sky-devouring beast devour you? Tuoba Rue was silent and refused to answer this question. Ji Tianxing was even more certain of his guess. He continued, Now that you're only left with a soul, there's nothing you can do other than complain and vent your anger. You hate Long Zitian, but you can't do anything to him. You have no chance to take revenge. You can only wait for death. Indeed, his words hit Tuoba Rue's weak point. Tuoba Rue immediately calmed down. Tuoba Rue was no longer angry. He stared at the seal of mountains and rivers and asked in a low voice, Ji Tianxing, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to say that I'm a failure? So what if I'm only left with a soul and can only wait for death? Aren't you the same? You're also going to die. What right do you have to laugh at me? Ji Tianxing chuckled and said confidently, He. Tuoba Rue, you're wrong. I'm different from you. A mere heaven-devouring beast can only trap me temporarily, but it's absolutely unable to do anything to me. If I were to risk my life to break out of this encirclement, I would definitely be able to escape from here. As for you, you don't even have the qualifications to fight for your life. Tuoba Rue fell into silence again, unable to refute. Ji Tianxing smiled and asked, Tuoba Rue, do you want revenge? Although his tone was very calm, it was not exciting. However, to Tuoba Rue, it was filled with a bewitching power. After a moment of silence, it finally opened its mouth and asked in a low voice, Yes, of course. Long Zitian took me in as his adopted son, and I respected him greatly. I listened to his every word, but from the very beginning, he treated me as a chess piece and raised me. In order to realize his grand ambition, he didn't care about the lives of others and used the celestial blood fusion technique to refine me into a celestial puppet. It won't be long before my soul is completely fused with the heaven-devouring beast. At that time, I will become a puppet of Tiandu, which is even more terrifying than death. Celestial blood fusion technique? Celestial puppet? Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and thought to himself, I have never heard of this secret technique. Could it be a secret technique of the Gu Dao? Tuobere stared at the seal of mountains and rivers and asked in a low voice, Ji Tianqing, even if I want revenge, what does it have to do with you? Can you help me take revenge? Why do you want to help me? How can you help me take revenge? Ji Tianqing smiled silently and said in a playful tone, You even need someone else's help to take revenge. You are so pitiful. Tuoba Rui's expression changed, and he roared angrily, Ji Tianqing, you dare to trick me? No. Ji Tianqing shook his head and said calmly, If you want revenge, sure. However, I will not help you. We will work together. Work together? Tuoba Rui was stunned and thought about it silently. Ji Tianqing did not give him time to think and continued, Tuoba Rui, you have no choice. If you want revenge, you can only work with me. Don't worry, as long as we can get out of here, I will kill Long Zitian sooner or later. Tuoba Rui hesitated and said in a low voice, Not only that, you have to kill the heaven-swallowing beast. I want my body back. Hee. Ji Tianqing sneered contemptuously, You think too much. What can you do for me? Why should I help you kill the heaven-swallowing beast? Tuoba Rui's face was full of anger and he explained, The heaven-swallowing beast has not completely merged with me. My soul is connected to it. If I fight back, I can restrain it and weaken its strength. Only then will you have a chance to escape. However, if I fight back, my soul will be refined by it and I will be completely destroyed. I am risking my soul to work with you. Shouldn't I be rewarded? Ji Tianqing thought for a while and said with a smile, What you said is not without reason. However, I can't guarantee that I can kill the heaven-swallowing beast. I can only try my best. If you are willing to believe me, let's take a gamble. If you are not willing to work with me, you can die on your own and wait for your soul to be refined. This time, Tuoba Rui pondered for a long time. He knew his own situation. If he did not fight back, he would die. If he worked with Ji Tianqing, he might have a chance to live. Hence, he thought for a while and nodded in agreement. All right. I will believe you this time. Let's take a gamble. Aren't you known as the #1 genius of the human race? Don't disappoint me. Ji Tianqing only smiled and did not say anything. Tuoba Rui did not waste any more time. He immediately activated his soul power to resist the heaven-swallowing beast's soul and fought for control of his body. The white ball of light shone brightly. The soul minifigure also turned into a wisp of white soul mist and surged violently. Tuoba Rui struggled with all his might and the heaven-swallowing beast was greatly affected. Originally, it was flying in the dark night sky. Its body was stable and its 4 pairs of wings were flapping rapidly. Its body was surrounded by a bloody light. Suddenly, its soul was restrained and suppressed. It lost control of its body. Its flying speed was reduced by more than half. Its body swayed and swayed in the night sky. Roar! Roar! The heaven-swallowing beast's soul resisted instinctively and suppressed Tuoba Rui's soul with all its might. It roared angrily and its body swayed violently. Finally, it fell from the sky and crashed heavily on a tall mountain. Bang! Amidst a deafening explosion, the 10,000 feet tall mountain was smashed into pieces. Endless dust burst out, covering the night sky. An earth-shattering commotion spread throughout a radius of 100 miles. The heaven-swallowing beast's body was still rolling on the collapsed ruins. It swayed violently and caused the mountains to shake. Chapter 884. The heaven-swallowing beast was rolling violently on the ruins, causing its stomach to churn and blood to fill the sky. However, Ji Tianqing had been accumulating his strength and waiting for the best time to strike. When Tuoba Rui warned him, the heaven-swallowing beast's soul was restrained and its body was almost out of control. This was the best time to strike. Ji Tianqing struck without hesitation. He controlled the seal of mountains and rivers and unleashed his strongest power. He used the fastest speed in his life to crash into the heaven-swallowing beast's stomach. The seal of mountains and rivers emitted a dazzling golden light, and a long golden flame trailed behind it. It was like a dazzling golden shooting star. It pierced through the blood-red flames and the wave-like dark red mucus and unleashed a destructive force. Bam! Amidst the deafening noise, the seal of mountains and rivers crashed into the dark red wall with a loud bang, erupting with a force that could destroy heaven and earth. Suddenly, a deep pit about 5 meters deep and more than 30 meters wide appeared on the dark red wall. Countless pieces of flesh and blood were mixed together and splattered in all directions. Dozens of thick white bones could be clearly seen in the deep pit. More than half of them had been shattered. The heaven-swallowing beast's mountain-like body was also pushed 100 meters away by the terrifying impact, flattening the uneven ruins into flat ground. The excruciating pain made it furious. Its body shook violently as it struggled violently on the ruins. Bam! 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 Its 1,000-meter-long body slammed heavily on the ground and shattered it. The surrounding mountains were also on the verge of collapsing. It struggled with all its might to suppress Tuobarue's soul and regain control of its body. Tuobarue was under unprecedented pressure. His soul was distorted and almost collapsed a few times. However, he refused to give up. He tried his best to hold on and pulled the heaven-swallowing beast's soul back and forth. He did not hope to defeat the heaven-swallowing beast's soul and regain control of its body. He only hoped to restrain the heaven-swallowing beast so that Ji Tianxing could escape. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Ji Tianxing used his ultimate killer move again and continued to attack the deep pit. He opened the third eye on his forehead. In the golden Dharma eye, the blue pupil accumulated destructive lightning. Lightning! He shouted and released all the lightning energy accumulated in his Dharma eye without holding back. A blue lightning bolt as thick as a water bucket appeared in an instant. With an unstoppable and violent power, it slammed into the wound. Bam! Another muffled explosion rang out. The deep crater-like wound immediately expanded and deepened by 4 meters. The dark red flesh in the wound was charred by the lightning and black smoke rose. At the bottom of the pit were rows of white bones with a layer of black scales. At first glance, Ji Tianxing knew that this was the heaven-swallowing beast's stomach. As long as he could break through that row of bones and scales, he would be able to blast a hole through the heaven-devouring beast's stomach and escape. Sword! He did not care about the consumption of his vital essence at all. Once again, he took out the sword embryo, which transformed into a giant golden sword that was 30 meters long. The giant sword glowed with a dazzling golden light. Accompanied by a pair of golden wings, it exploded with a power that could pierce through everything and viciously slammed into the wound. Boom! The sword of judgment hit the bones and scales at the bottom of the wound, and a loud thud was heard. Hundreds of bones shattered on the spot, turning into white bone dregs. Mixed with the broken scales, they flew into the dark night sky outside. The heaven-swallowing beast's stomach was finally blasted through. That wound had become a huge hole with a radius of 10 meters. Through the hole, he could clearly see the ruins and the night sky outside. It's finally done. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianxing's spirit shook, and he secretly shouted in his heart. Without hesitation, he passed through the hole and escaped from the heaven-devouring beast's stomach, returning to the gloomy night sky. At the same time, the heaven-devouring beast was driven mad by the intense pain from its wound. Roar! It opened its bloody mouth and let out a hysterical roar. It actually stirred up a shocking hurricane in the night sky, crushing several mountains around the ruins. A deep crater with a radius of 30 miles was also created on the ground by the hurricane. Dust flew everywhere, covering the sky and the sun. The heaven-devouring beast went berserk. Its soul power exploded to the extreme, and it desperately suppressed Tuobarue. Tuobarue could not resist at all. His soul was suppressed until it trembled and shattered. He was no match for the heaven-devouring beast. His soul quickly shattered and was quickly devoured by the heaven-devouring beast. At the moment when his soul was about to be destroyed, he let out a desperate soul roar. Ji Tianxing, remember your promise. You must kill Long Zitian. Otherwise, I won't let you go even if I become a ghost. After he roared this sentence, his soul completely collapsed and turned into wisps of white soul mist, which was immediately devoured by the heaven-devouring beast. The heaven-devouring beast regained control of its body and let out an excited roar. Its soul was devouring to Oberui's soul. Its body twisted a few times, and it flapped its wings and flew back into the night sky. The thick mucus and bloody flames in its stomach immediately flowed out of the hole in its stomach and scattered on the ruins and the ground. The night sky was illuminated by the dark red light. The thick dark red mucus corroded the ground into black powder, and poisonous smoke rose into the sky. Ji Tianxing stood thousands of feet high in the sky and looked down at the scene below. He frowned and his expression was very serious. He was very clear that Tu Oberui's soul had been refined by the heaven-devouring beast and was completely destroyed. He looked at the heaven-devouring beast with a serious expression and thought to himself, Tu Oberui, although you are Long Zitian's adopted son, you were once my enemy. However, you were used as a pawn and sacrifice by Long Zitian. Only at the last moment of your life did you repent. Actually, you are also a pitiful person. It's just that Long Zitian is too cruel and merciless. He would do anything to achieve his goal. Don't worry, I will not let Long Zitian go. One day, I will kill him with my own hands. After saying that, Ji Tianxing turned to leave. However, the heaven-devouring beast rushed over like a ray of light and launched an attack without caring about anything else. Roar! It opened its bloody mouth and released a dark red light that covered the sky. It wanted to engulf the area within a radius of 20 li and swallow this area. The dark red light shrouded down. Not only was the area within a radius of 20 li going to be engulfed, Ji Tianxing was also going to be swallowed into its stomach again. Previously, Ji Tianxing was swallowed into the heaven-devouring beast's stomach because he was unprepared. Now that he had already suffered once, how could he fall for it again? When the dark red light shrouded down, he did not hesitate to take out his sword embryo and flew away on his sword. Swish! He turned into a golden light and dodged the dark red light with his fastest speed, quickly disappearing into the night sky. There was no choice. In the previous battle, he had used his ultimate killer move several times, and his primeval essence was greatly depleted. If he continued to fight, he was definitely not the heaven-devouring beast's match and would definitely meet with misfortune. Now, he could only escape temporarily and find a chance to take revenge in the future. Chapter 885. Seeing Ji Tianxing escape on his sword, the heaven-devouring beast roared angrily and chased after him with all its might. It flapped its 4 pairs of wings and its body emitted a dazzling blood-red light. It streaked across the night sky like a shooting star. However, after it chased for 300 miles, Ji Tianxing left it behind without a trace. Ji Tianxing, who was flying on his sword, reached the limit of his speed. He was comparable to an expert at the 4th or 5th level of the soul-tempering realm. The heaven-devouring beast had been carefully nurtured by the 3rd prince for a long time and had reached the soul-tempering realm under the catalysis of the 1000 Gu origin. However, it had great strength and powerful defense. It could devour all things. Speed was not its strong suit. It was only at the level of an ordinary expert at the 2nd level of the soul-tempering realm. The heaven-devouring beast stopped in the night sky unwillingly. After roaring angrily a few times, its body shrank violently. Swoosh! After a dark red flash, its 1,000-meter-long body shrank several hundred times, turning into a red-haired youth 2 meters tall. It turned into Tu Oberui's appearance. His face was ferocious, his eyes were blood-red, and there was a bloody mouth on his abdomen. However, the real Tuoba Rue had been completely destroyed. He was not the real heaven-devouring beast, but a celestial capital puppet. He had fused with Tuoba Rue's body and soul, and had a part of Tuoba Rue's memories and intelligence. He did not look as dull and stiff as before. However, as a celestial capital puppet, he did not have his own thoughts and was completely obedient to the third prince. Ji Tianxing, you insignificant worm, one day I will completely devour you. The celestial capital puppet clenched his fists. The bloody mouth on his abdomen opened and closed as he spoke in a hoarse voice. With that, he flapped the wings on his back and turned into a dark red stream of light. He tore through the night sky at lightning speed and returned to Zhongzhou City. A few hours passed quickly. At noon the next day, the celestial capital puppet rushed back to the palace in the south of Zhongzhou City. Swoosh! He descended from the sky and landed outside the gate of the manor. The guards at the gate immediately bowed and greeted, "Greetings, young Master Tuoba." The celestial metropolis puppet ignored the many guards and expressionlessly stepped through the gate into the manor. Not long after, he entered the palace in the depths of the manor and came to the door of the third prince's secret room. He opened the stone door of the secret chamber with a secret technique and strode into the secret chamber. Inside the secret chamber, the third prince was sitting upright on a spiritual jade throne. He held a spiritual stone in each of his hands and was circulating his martial arts to recover his strength. Previously, in order to use the Heaven Capital Blood Fusion Grand Technique to refine the Heaven Capital Puppet, he had used up 70 to 80% of his power, and his vitality was greatly damaged. Even though he had been recuperating for 2 or 3 days, he still hadn't fully recovered. The celestial puppet entered the secret chamber and stood 10 steps away from him. It bowed respectfully and said, "Master." The third prince stopped cultivating and opened his eyes to look at Tuoba Ba. He asked in a cold voice, "Tuoba, have you completed your mission? Where is Ji Tianxing?" The celestial puppet revealed an ashamed expression. It lowered its head and said, "Reporting to Master, this subordinate has failed in his task and allowed Ji Tianxing to escape." That little bastard actually escaped? The third prince's expression changed and he frowned fiercely. The celestial puppet didn't dare to hide anything and hurriedly reported what had happened last night in detail. After the third prince finished listening, his expression became more and more serious. His eyes surged with intense anger and hatred. "I have just refined the celestial puppet, and this is the first time I used this secret weapon. It actually failed in its task and allowed Ji Tianxing to escape. Tuoba Rue, this bastard, I have raised him for more than 10 years in vain. I didn't expect him to be an ingrate. He is only left with his soul, but he actually colluded with Ji Tianxing and joined forces to resist. His death is not regrettable." The celestial puppet felt the third prince's anger and murderous intent. It lowered its head in reverence and didn't dare to make a sound. After a moment, when the third prince's anger dissipated a little, it opened its mouth and said, "Master, this subordinate has disappointed you. However, this subordinate saw the direction Ji Tianxing escaped in. It seems to be towards Cloud Spirit Palace. Master, please don't worry. This subordinate will go to Cloud Spirit Palace and set up an ambush. This time, we will definitely be able to capture Ji Tianxing." The celestial puppet had a certain level of intelligence. Although its intelligence wasn't very high, it at least knew how to make up for its mistake. The third prince waved his hand and said expressionlessly, "No need. You have already failed once. It's useless to set up an ambush now. He will definitely be alert. This operation is just a test. It doesn't matter if it fails. At least, the celestial puppet's power and effect have already reached my expectations. It will be of great use in the future." The celestial puppet respectfully cupped its hands and asked, "Master, how should we deal with Ji Tianxing?" The third prince said with a gloomy face, "Let him live for a few more days. After I have completely removed the hidden dangers in my body, and my strength has recovered to its peak, I will personally kill him. There is still a month until his wedding with Yun Yao. When the time comes, I will turn his wedding into a funeral. This subordinate understands. The celestial puppet cupped its hands and bowed. Don't worry and recuperate. Merge with Tuoba Rue's soul as soon as possible and increase your strength. The third prince waved his sleeves and shot out a hazy spiritual light. He then put the celestial puppet into the five-colored altar. At the same time, Ji Tianxing was riding on Qian Yu and flying in the white sea of clouds. The noon sun shone on his body, making him feel a trace of warmth. The fatigue in his body was also dispelled. Last night, in order to escape the pursuit of the heaven-swallowing beast, he had used up a lot of true core strength to run for hundreds of miles on his sword. In addition, he had used his trump card several times during his journey. More than half of the true core strength in his body had been used up. Now, his strength was very weak. He only had about 40% of his combat strength left. If the heaven-swallowing beast caught up with him again, he would definitely not be its match. Long Zitian, that bastard, actually used the origin of all poisonous insects and sorcery to cultivate the heaven-swallowing beast. He is so vicious and cruel that it makes one's hair stand on end. Luckily, he only sent the heaven-swallowing beast and didn't come to kill me personally. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to escape last night. Ji Tianxing murmured in a low voice. His face was still gloomy and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. As Qian Yu flew, he said to him, "Old Ji, the third prince has been using all kinds of tricks against you. You are in the open and he is in the dark. This way, you are in a very passive situation. Doesn't Long Yunxiao have a grudge against him? Why do you have to fight alone? I suggest you talk to Long Yunxiao. Maybe the two of you can work together to deal with the third prince. With your strength and methods, and Long Yunxiao's power, you might be able to kill him." Ji Tianxing nodded and said calmly, "Qian Yu, even if you didn't remind me, I also had this idea. However, I have to go to Cloud Spirit Palace first. When I return to the imperial residence, I will discuss this with Long Yunxiao." Qian Yu flapped his wings and continued, "Oh right, old Ji, you have to tell Palace Master Yun and Dr. Bailey about this. After all, they are senior experts. Maybe they can think of a way. You are not fighting alone now. We are all supporting you." Chapter 886. Ji Tianxing sat on Qian Yu's back as they rushed towards Cloud Soul Palace. Qian Yu finally arrived at Cloud Soul Palace in the evening when the sun was setting. At this time, Ji Tianxing had recovered 30% of his strength after half a day of recuperation. His mental state was also much better. He landed on a plaza paved with golden bricks and walked up the 99 steps of green jade to enter Cloud Soul Palace. Inside and outside Cloud Soul Palace, many servants and servants were busy preparing for his and Yun Yao's wedding. When Ji Tianxing walked through Cloud Soul Palace, the servants and guards would respectfully bow and greet him as young master. Ji Tianxing walked through many courtyards and corridors to reach his father's residence. It was a quiet and secluded courtyard with elite guards outside. There was a bamboo forest, a garden, a lotus pond, and ancient pine trees in the courtyard. It was a peaceful place. Coincidentally, Ji Chongkong wasn't the only one in the courtyard. Yun Zhongqi was there as well. When Ji Tianxing entered the courtyard, he saw his father and Yun Zhongqi sitting under an ancient pine tree in the courtyard. They were chatting with smiles on their faces. The two of them were sitting on stone stools. There were 2 cups of spirit tea and 2 plates of pastries on the stone table in front of them. The two of them seemed to be discussing the wedding celebration. When they talked about something happy, they laughed heartily. Ji Tianxing walked under the ancient pine tree and greeted the two of them with a smile. "Father, Uncle Yun." Yun Zhongqi and Ji Chongkong stopped talking and turned to look at him with gratified smiles. "What a coincidence!" Ji Chongkong clapped his hands with a smile. Yun Zhongqi also smiled and nodded. Tianxing, we were just talking about you when you came back. As he spoke, he looked at Ji Tianxing from head to toe and frowned. Tianxing, why are you injured? And why are you in such a sorry state? Although Ji Tianxing's expression and condition had returned to normal, Yun Zhongqi was a soul refiner. However, Yun Zhongqi was a soul refinement realm cultivator, and he was very familiar with him. Naturally, he could tell that he was injured. Ji Changkong also saw the clues and asked with concern, Tianxing, what happened? Ji Tianxing did not hide the truth and said, when I was on my way to Cloud Soul Palace, I met a young demon. His name is Obere, and he is the adopted son of the third prince. He told Yun Zhongqi and his father about what had happened last night. After he finished speaking, he did not forget to remind Yun Zhongqi, Uncle Yun, the third prince's heaven-devouring beast was found in the Star Burial Sea. He used a Gu Path divine artifact to nurture the heaven-swallowing beast to become extremely strong. He then fused the heaven-swallowing beast with Tuoberue and used an evil secret method to refine a heavenly capital puppet. The celestial capital puppet has the strength of a spirit refinement realm cultivator. Normally, it is in human form, but it can transform into a heaven-devouring beast at any time. It is impossible to guard against it. Yun Zhongqi nodded and stroked his beard. He said in a serious tone, the third prince used an evil secret method to nurture an evil heaven-devouring beast. This is against the imperial court's laws. In order to refine a heavenly capital puppet, he actually sacrificed his adopted son. It is clear that he is a vicious person. Fortunately, Tianxing, you are blessed by the heavens and managed to escape successfully. I will write a memorial and send it to the imperial court as soon as possible. I will hand it to the imperial emperor and ask him to investigate this matter. Ji Tianxing sighed and said in a serious tone, the third prince naturally understands the imperial court's laws. If he dares to do this, he must have something to rely on. He is not afraid of being punished by the imperial emperor. Yun Zhongqi said in a dignified tone, no matter what, I will report him and give him a warning. Ji Tianxing nodded in agreement and did not talk about this matter anymore. He looked at his father, Ji Changkong, and said, Father, I came to Cloud Soul Palace this time mainly to visit you. Also, I have to bring you back to the Imperial Emperor residence. Ji Changkong nodded and said calmly, Tianxing, my body is fine and my strength has increased. Cultivating in Cloud Soul Palace is twice the result with half the effort. As for going to the Imperial Emperor residence, I have already considered it. According to the rules, it is indeed not suitable for me to stay in Cloud Soul Palace. However, the Imperial Emperor residence is a martial arts holy land. The rules are strict and there are many things to pay attention to. I am not willing to go to the Imperial Emperor residence to avoid causing trouble and criticism for you. But, Ji Tianxing frowned slightly and was about to persuade his father. At this moment, Yun Zhongqi waved his hand at him and said, Tianxing, your father is used to living here. It will be inconvenient for him to go to the Imperial Emperor residence with you. Moreover, Cloud Soul Palace is very far from Zhongzhou City. You have already been ambushed by the heavenly capital puppet on the way here. If you bring your father back to Zhongzhou City and encounter another ambush on the way, won't it be even more dangerous? Don't persuade your father. Just let him stay in Cloud Soul Palace. We are all martial arts aristocratic families, not ordinary people. There is no need for us to adhere to complicated formalities. Since Ji Tianxing was unwilling to go to the Imperial Emperor residence, and Yun Zhongqi had also spoken up to persuade him, Ji Tianxing did not say anything else and nodded in agreement. He chatted with his father and Yun Zhongqi for a while before leaving the small courtyard to visit his master, Divine Dr. Bailey. He would rest in Cloud Soul Palace for 2 days before returning to the Imperial Emperor residence. In the western part of Zhongzhou, in the Demon Imperial Court. In the depths of the Imperial Court, there was an exquisite and luxurious palace called the Bright Light Palace. This palace was newly built a few months ago. It was the palace of the demon princess. At this moment, in a spacious and bright room, there were two extremely beautiful and noble demon clan women sitting at a table and chatting. One of the women looked to be about 30 years old. She wore a moon-white long dress and exuded a noble and graceful aura. She was tall and slender, and she had long silver hair that reached her waist. There was also a diamond-shaped silver mark on her forehead. She was the Spirit Star Demon Empress of the Demon Imperial Court. She was also the birth mother of Kuan Wu and Jiku. The demon clan girl sitting next to the Spirit Star Demon Empress was about 16 or 17 years old. She wore a fiery red long dress. Her face was extremely beautiful, and her clear eyes were very lively. She was the Demon Imperial Court's princess, Jiku. The Spirit Star Demon Empress was holding on to Jiku's hand. She had an amiable smile on her face as she spoke in a gentle tone. "Cuckoo, you must have suffered a lot after cultivating in seclusion for over 2 months, right? Mother has prepared a few elixirs for you. Remember to take them later." Jiku nodded and said with a smile, "Thank you, Imperial Mother." Although the cultivation was tough, my strength improved very quickly. I finally broke through to the Sky Origin realm. Mother, I haven't returned to Zhongzhou for almost half a year. I want to go and take a look. The Spirit Star Demon Empress nodded slightly and smiled gently. Of course, Mother knows that you miss your brother Kuan Wu and your brother Tianqing. Mother came to find you today to tell you a piece of good news. Ji Tianqing is about to get married, and the invitation card has already been sent to the Imperial Court. In 2 days, you will go to Zhongzhou to find your brother Kuan Wu. The two of you will go and congratulate Ji Tianqing together. As she spoke, she took out a red and golden invitation card from her wide sleeve and placed it on the table in front of her. The smile on Jiku's face had already disappeared. It was replaced by a stunned expression. Chapter 887. Originally, Jiku had been cultivating in the Demon Imperial Court for half a year. She had been cultivating in seclusion for a few months, ignoring everything that was happening outside. She had awakened a noble and powerful bloodline, and with the help of the heavenly Net Demon Emperor, she had refined the mysterious demonic power in her soul. Therefore, her strength had improved very quickly, and she had broken through to the Sky Origin realm in half a year. After reaching the Sky Origin realm, she was filled with joy and excitement, and she could not wait to come out of seclusion. She only wanted to rush back to Central Continent City and see Ji Tianqing as soon as possible. However, she did not expect to hear this news on the first day she came out of seclusion. Ji Tianqing was getting married, and he had sent an invitation early in the morning. Jiku's emotions were very complicated, and her heart was filled with bitterness and bitterness. She stared blankly at the red invitation on the table, and looked at the big word "Double Happiness" on the cover. She did not dare to touch it. Silently, her big clear eyes were covered with a layer of mist, and sparkling and translucent teardrops slid down her cheeks. The Spirit Star Demon Empress did not notice her strange behavior, and she was still smiling as she said, "Ji Tianqing is the #1 genius of the human race, and his name is known throughout the world. He has been in the limelight for the past half a year. The girl who is worthy of him is naturally a genius of the human race, and she is the Pearl of the Cloud Soul Palace, Yun Yao. Speaking of which, Cuckoo, you should be familiar with Yun Yao. After all, the two of you were once from the same sect." At this point, the Spirit Star Demon Empress looked at Jiku gently. Seeing Jiku's dazed expression, the Spirit Star Demon Empress was puzzled. "Cuckoo, what's wrong? Child, why are you crying? What happened? Quickly tell Mother." The Spirit Star Demon Empress reached out her hands and held Jiku's shoulders, asking her with concern. Jiku woke up with a start, and she quickly wiped the tears from her eyes. She squeezed out a smile and shook her head. "Mother, I'm not crying, I'm fine. I just suddenly heard this news. I'm happy for Big Brother Tianqing. Yes, I'm happy for him. Spirit Star's Demon Empress was an experienced person. How could she not see Jiku's abnormality? However, she didn't understand the situation, so it wasn't convenient for her to say anything. She could only hug Cuckoo in her arms and say with a voice full of love, "Cuckoo, my silly child." Sigh. Jiku lay in her arms. After a moment of silence, he suppressed the bitterness in his heart and calmed down. She raised her head to look at the Spirit Star Demon Empress and spoke with a calm expression. "Empress Mother, tomorrow morning, I will go to Central Continent City to look for Brother Kunwu. We will go together to congratulate Brother Tianxing." Spirit Star Demon Empress nodded and said earnestly, "Yes, that's what I should do. You must let Kunwu accompany you. Don't be impolite. After all, you are now the princess of the demon race. Your every word and action represents the imperial court of the demon race." Spirit Star's Demon Empress had vaguely guessed something and understood something. That was why she had instructed Jiku. However, Jiku was absent-minded and didn't listen to her words. He only nodded silently. Spirit Star's Demon Empress tried to persuade him in a roundabout way before leaving Zhaohua Palace. It was a silent night. The next morning, Jiku left the demon race imperial court alone. She climbed up the sky-soaring tower and used the mother-child sky-soaring shuttle to return to Kunwa's manor outside Central Continent City. There were many demon race guards and maids in the magnificent manor. However, Kunwa wasn't in the manor. Jiku asked the guards and found out that Kunwa had always been in the monarch residence. Thus, she asked the guards to report to the monarch residence and inform Kunwu. Kunwu only rushed back to the manor from the monarch residence in the evening. When he returned to the manor, he couldn't wait to rush to Jiku's residence. After seeing Jiku, he sized up Jiku and instantly revealed a gratified smile. "Cuckoo, you finally came out of seclusion. I didn't expect you to break through to the Sky Origin realm so quickly. You're only 18 years old, and you've already reached the Sky Origin realm. You've even surpassed Big Brother. You're our race's #1 genius." Jiku's exceptional talent and rapid growth shocked Kunwu, but he was also happy for her. However, Jiku wasn't in high spirits and couldn't feel happy at all. She looked at Kunwu and bowed slightly. "Big Brother Kunwu, you're back. Cuckoo, what's wrong? Why are you unhappy?" Kunwu walked to her side and sat down, asking with concern. Jiku shook her head and forced out a smile. "No, I'm not. How am I unhappy? Big Brother Kunwu, after I came out of seclusion yesterday, Imperial Mother gave me an invitation card and said that Big Brother Tianxing is going to get married." Kunwu smiled and nodded. "That's right. Ji Tianxing is going to marry Yun Yao. The wedding date is set for the 9th of next month. At that time, they will hold a grand banquet in Central Continent City. This news has already spread throughout Central Continent and the entire world knows about it. Cuckoo, Tianxing is your elder brother and Yun Yao is your senior sister. You must be happy for them, right?" Jiku nodded lightly and asked, "Big Brother Kunwu, then can you accompany me to Tianxing Palace to see Big Brother Tianxing and congratulate him?" Kunwu was startled and explained, "Cuckoo, Ji Tianxing hasn't been in the Monarch Palace for the past 2 days. He seems to have gone to Cloud Soul Palace to handle some matters. You can stay here for now. When he returns to the Monarch Palace, I'll accompany you to see him. How about that?" A hint of disappointment flashed through Jiku's eyes. She didn't say anything and nodded in agreement. After that, Kunwa chatted with her for a while before bidding farewell and leaving. After Kunwa left, she also left the manor and entered Central Continent City alone. She secretly rushed to the Forest of Divine Monument. She waited in the Forest of Divine Monuments for a long time before a few guards from the Monarch Palace arrived. She took out a letter and handed it to one of the guards. She asked him to pass the letter to Tianxing Palace. After the guards entered the Monarch Palace, she turned around and left the Forest of Divine Monuments. She returned to the manor outside the city and waited patiently. Unknowingly, 4 days passed. Ji Tianxing rested in Cloud Soul Palace for 2 days. His strength and mental strength had recovered to their peak. Only then did he leave Cloud Soul Palace and return to the Monarch Palace. He traveled alone and didn't bring his father. He let his father continue to stay in Cloud Soul Palace. On the 7th day of the next month, when he went to Cloud Soul Palace to marry Yun Yao, he would return to Central Continent City with his father. That evening, he rushed back to Central Continent City and returned to the Monarch Palace. He had just returned to Tianxing Palace when the guards at the gate bowed respectfully and took out a letter. "Greetings to the Region Lord. Region Lord, here is a letter for you." Ji Tianxing stopped and reached out to take the letter from the guard's hand. He asked casually, "Who sent the letter?" The guard reported truthfully, reporting to the Region Lord, "It was sent by the guards of the Monarch Palace. It is said that the person who sent the letter is a young girl from the Monster Clan." "Young girl from the Monster Clan?" Ji Tianxing raised his eyebrows. He was a little puzzled and hurriedly opened the letter. When he took out the letter, he saw a line of beautiful words written on it. Chapter 888. When Ji Tianxing saw the small line of words on the paper, he immediately frowned and a smile appeared on his face. "It's Cuckoo. She actually came back to Central State." Ever since he went to the Fey Imperial Court to borrow the Ice Dragon Hammer and unravel Jiku's identity, Jiku had been staying in the Fey Imperial Court. Back then, Kuan Wu also told him that Jiku would have to stay in the Imperial Court for at least half a year to resolve her crisis and slowly refine the mysterious power in her soul. Now that half a year's time was almost up, Jiku should be back soon. "That's great. Cuckoo came back just in time for Mai and Yao Yao's wedding." Ji Tianxing was very happy. After receiving Jiku's letter, he turned and flew towards the entrance of the monarch residence. The returning swallow forest mentioned in the letter was 30 li west of Central State City. It was a place with a lot of meaning. It was said that 1,000 years ago, when the demon race army was rampaging and conquering the world, the Western Wilderness Fae were the main battlefield. At that time, the Western Wilderness Fae were ravaged by the flames of war. Countless Fae tribes and towns were trampled into ruins by the demon race army. The brave warriors of Central State City, in order to protect their homes and resist the invasion of the demon race army, all rushed to the Western Wilderness to participate in the battle. Not only the Fae race warriors, but many righteous warriors and soldiers of the human race also rushed to the Western Wilderness to help the Fae race defend against the demon race's invasion. The flames of war continued, causing the world to be in chaos. The people had no way to make a living and countless people died. The brave warriors fought with their lives on the battlefield of the Western Wilderness, bathed in blood, but they could not contact their families in Central State. Even sending a letter to tell them that they were safe was an extravagant hope. Their families spent their days in worry. They would often look at the maple forest outside the Western City Gate, waiting for their loved ones to return in triumph. Over time, more and more families gathered in the maple forest, looking at the Western Wilderness and praying for their loved ones. Although the demon race army retreated to the northern desert after the chaos of the demon race was quelled, a portion of the brave warriors did indeed return in triumph and reunited with their loved ones in the maple forest. But most of the brave warriors died on the battlefield of the Western Wilderness, their heroic souls and loyal bones buried in other places. Thus, the ancient maple forest was named the Returning Swallow Forest. There was a beautiful meaning behind it. The families of the warriors hoped that their loved ones could return safely, like swallows returning to the forest, returning to their hometowns smoothly. In the 100 or 200 years after the chaos of the demon race ended, many people of Central State still went to Yen Returning Forest to pay their respects to the dead. However, in the past few hundred years, very few people had gone to Swallow Returning Forest. When Ji Tianxing arrived at Guiyen Forest, the sun was about to set. The dim sunlight shone on the maple forest, illuminating the red leaves on the trees. The ground also seemed to be covered with a layer of red carpet. Some people said that the red leaves on the trees and the dark red ground were dyed with the blood of the brave warriors of the past. They warned the future generations not to forget the chaos of the demon race and to be vigilant in times of peace. Ji Tianqing saw the red leaves and maple trees everywhere, but he didn't think too much about it. He quickly shuttled through the forest, his sharp eyes searching for Ji Ku's figure. His heart was filled with excitement and anticipation. After 100 breaths of time, when he entered the depths of Guiyan Forest, he saw a graceful figure under a 2-meter-thick maple tree. It was a young girl with a graceful figure and a noble temperament. She wore a fiery red dress, her waist-length black hair draped behind her head. There was also a pair of small, fluffy golden ears on her temples. She was very cute. She was standing under the huge maple tree, quietly looking ahead. Red leaves fell from the tree and landed on her body, but she didn't feel anything. It was obvious that she was in a daze and had a lot on her mind. Although Ji Tianqing could only see her back, he could recognize at a glance that it was Ji Ku, whom he hadn't seen in a long time. Ku! Ji Tianqing quickly walked to the red maple tree and stopped behind Ji Ku. He called out to her with a face full of smiles. Ji Ku was immediately jolted awake. She slowly turned around and looked at Ji Tianqing. Just a moment ago, she had a lot on her mind and her eyes were a little moist. Now, her expression was normal and she even smiled happily. "Big brother Tianqing, you're finally here," Ji Ku responded in a crisp voice. She quickly took 2 steps forward and stood face to face with Ji Tianqing. Her clear eyes shone with joy. She looked at Ji Tianqing affectionately and couldn't move her eyes away. Ji Tianqing didn't notice anything strange. He reached out and pinched her cute little golden ears. He smiled and joked, "Cuckoo, I haven't seen you for a few months. How did you grow taller again? Not only have you become prettier, you've also become stronger. You've broken through to the heavenly origin stage?" Ji Ku smiled and nodded. "Yes, I've been cultivating in seclusion for the past few months. I just want to reach the heavenly origin stage as soon as possible so that I can return to Zhongzhou and help Big Brother Tianqing." Ji Tianqing smiled and waved his hand. "Cuckoo, I'm not in any danger now and I don't have any strong enemies. I don't need your help. Besides, even if there's any danger, I'll do my best to deal with it. How can I let you take the risk with me? Even if I'm willing, Kun Wu and your parents won't." He was joking with Ji Ku, just like he used to do in the past to make her happy. However, Ji Ku's smile was a little forced. She only nodded and didn't say anything. Disappointment flashed across her eyes and she felt even more bitter. She thought to herself, "Even if I cultivate desperately and reach the heavenly origin stage, I still won't be able to help Big Brother Tianqing. I'll still be a burden." At this moment, Ji Tianqing smiled and said, "Cuckoo, you've come back at the right time. On the 9th of next month, Big Senior Sister and I will be getting married. When the time comes, you must come to our wedding. We haven't seen you for a long time and we all miss you." As Ji Tianqing spoke, he noticed that Ji Ku's expression was a little strange. Ji Ku gazed at him with deep affection. Although there was a smile on her beautiful face, her clear eyes were covered with a layer of mist. He hurriedly held Ji Ku's shoulders and asked with concern, "Cuckoo, why are you crying?" Ji Ku hurriedly turned her head to look elsewhere, not wanting him to see her reddened eyes. She pretended to be strong and said, "No, I'm not crying. I'm happy. Big Brother Tianqing, I'm happy for you and Big Senior Sister." Ji Tianqing was instantly amused by her. He reached out to wipe away the tears at the corner of her eyes and gently stroked her head with his palm. He smiled and said, "Silly girl, why are you still so silly? Why are you crying when you're happy for us?" Ji Ku felt his concern and care. Feeling his gentle palm, it was as if they had returned to the past. She couldn't hold back the bitterness in her heart. She couldn't hold back her pretense of being strong and turned around to throw herself into Ji Tianqing's arms. She hugged Ji Tianqing's neck tightly with her arms. Crystal clear tears flowed out of her eyes as she cried bitterly. Big brother Tianxing. The person I like is you. Can't you tell it all? Can't you feel it? You're going to marry big senior sister. Then what should I do? Chapter 889. Ji Tianxing was stunned by Ji Ku's sudden tears. He stood there stiffly and looked down at Ji Ku. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. Ji Ku leaned on his shoulder and hugged his neck tightly, as if she was afraid that he would disappear if she let go. She lost her voice and cried bitterly. Her weak shoulders trembled, and in her big, clear eyes, sparkling and translucent tears flowed down uncontrollably. She had enough time and patience to wait by Ji Tianxing's side and wait for him to understand her feelings. She had already waited for more than 10 years. She didn't mind waiting for another 10 years. However, she didn't expect that she would finally be qualified to stand by Ji Tianxing's side and help him solve his problems. When she came out of seclusion, she received Ji Tianxing and Yun Yao's wedding invitation. Who could understand the pain in her heart? Ji Tianxing was silent for a moment. Then, he opened his arms and hugged Ji Ku. He patted her back gently and comforted her gently. Silly girl, don't cry. I know you treat me well with all your heart and can't accept anyone else. But I've always treated you as my little sister. Ji Ku's body stiffened and she slowly let go of his neck. She looked at Ji Tianxing with a miserable expression and took 2 steps back in a daze. She shook her head gently and said, No. Do you only treat me as your little sister? I don't want to. You are the one and only person I love the most in my heart. I don't want to be your little sister. I just want to be your wife and be with you until our hair turns white. Brother Tianxing, do you really not understand? Ji Tianxing looked at Ji Ku's dazed and heartbroken appearance. His heart clenched and he felt a stab of pain. Ku, don't be like this. Isn't it good for us to be like before? Don't worry. I treat you as my little sister. I will love you and pamper you as always. I will never let you suffer. I understand. Ji Ku's tears flowed uncontrollably. Suppressing the stabbing pain of her broken heart, she tried to squeeze out a faint smile on her tear-stained face and loudly said, Big brother Tianxing, thank you for being willing to love and pamper me. I wish you and senior sister Yun Yao happiness for 100 years. Ji Ku's voice was choked with sobs. He forced himself to finish his sentence before turning around and running out of the maple forest. Ku. Ji Tianxing quickly chased after her and grabbed Ji Ku's hand. However, before he could say anything, Ji Ku broke free from his grip. Ji Ku didn't even look back as she said in a pleading tone, Brother Tianxing, don't say any more. Don't follow me. Please let me be alone. Ji Tianxing frowned as he looked at Ji Ku with a complicated expression. His heart was heavy. He could feel Ji Ku's heartache and despair, but he was powerless to persuade her. After all, he couldn't give Ji Ku what she wanted. He could only stand there and watch as Ji Ku left. Her frail and sad figure disappeared at the end of the maple forest. After a long time, he retracted his gaze and sighed heavily. Sigh. Ku, why are you so silly? What have I done to deserve you to be so devoted to me? I only hope that after today, you can calm down and slowly forget all these troubles. I hope that you can return to the innocent, lively, and cheerful Ku of the past. Ji Tianxing didn't chase after Ji Ku. This was because he knew that Ji Ku was in a terrible mood. She really needed some time alone. With a heavy heart, he quickly left the Yen-returning forest and returned to Zhongzhou City. Ji Ku walked through the forest in a daze, allowing her tears to blur her eyes. Her heart was still very painful. Even the air she breathed in seemed to be filled with the coldness and bleakness of winter. She ran around aimlessly. She only wanted to find a place where no one could see her and cry her heart out. After an unknown amount of time, the sky gradually darkened and night fell. The forest became dark and gloomy. Waves of bird cries and beast roars could be heard from the distance. Ji Ku ran to an ancient and weathered tree. She seemed to have used up all of her strength. She sat down under the tree with a dejected expression. She leaned against the ancient and rough tree trunk and held her head with her arms. She lay on her knees and quietly sobbed. The night wind was cold, but she didn't seem to feel it. After a long time, her tears had almost dried up. Her eyes were a bit red and swollen. Only then did she gradually stop sobbing. It was already late at night. There was no moon in the night sky. There were only a few stars that emitted a weak and dim starlight. She was still lying on her knees. She stared at the fallen leaves on the ground in a daze. At this moment, an ancient and powerful voice suddenly sounded in the night and clearly entered her mind. "Little girl, you seem to be very sad?" It was the voice of an old man. His tone was kind, and there was also a sense of superiority and majesty in it. Jiku, who was in a daze, was suddenly awakened by this voice. She immediately raised her head and wiped the tears from her eyes. She looked around in confusion. Who is it? Who's talking? She looked around and realized that she was sitting under an ancient locust tree that was 100 meters tall. Under the locust tree was a broken stone path covered by fallen leaves. A black statue that was more than 10 meters tall stood 100 feet to the left. The black and ancient statue was carved of an unknown ferocious beast. It looked very ferocious and dignified. However, the stone statue had been eroded by wind and rain for countless years. It had long become mottled and full of holes. Not far behind her, at the end of the broken stone path, there was a temple that was half hidden by a large tree. However, the temple had been abandoned for many years. Most of the main door had collapsed, and the courtyard was overgrown with weeds. The beams, eaves, and pillars were also covered with cobwebs and dust. There's actually a run-down temple deep in the mountains? How did I end up here? Jiku immediately frowned. She was on her guard. In the dark night, in the desolate mountains, there was actually an ancient and run-down temple. There was also that voice that came from nowhere. The atmosphere was a little eerie and terrifying. Jiku vaguely felt that this was not a good place. She subconsciously wanted to get up and leave. However, at this moment, the dignified and kind old man's voice sounded in her mind again. "I can feel that your heart is like dead ashes. You're very sad and desperate. Tell me your story. Perhaps I can fulfill your wish." The old man's voice did not really exist. It was directly transmitted into Jiku's mind. That voice contained some kind of special power that could calm a person's mind and soul, causing them to let down their guard and quickly relax. Jiku was silent for a moment. For some reason, she stopped in her tracks and looked at the ancient statue not far away. She could sense that the old man's voice in her mind came from that statue. "Who are you? Why are you so mysterious? Why don't you dare to show yourself?" Chapter 890. Being questioned by Jiku, the voice did not get angry. It chuckled as if it was mocking itself. "Who am I? Haha. It's been too long, and I've forgotten who I am. Perhaps I'm just a dejected god who has been forgotten for many years and is not worshipped by incense." Jiku immediately frowned and said with a puzzled expression, "A dejected god who has been forgotten by people? Stop pretending to be so mysterious." She did not know much about the ancient legends, so of course she did not believe in gods and ghosts. The voice was still calm as it said indifferently, "Little girl, it's your fortune to be able to meet me. Since I'm a god, I have supernatural powers that mortals cannot imagine. It's fine if you don't want to reveal your inner thoughts. I can naturally know what you're thinking. I only have one piece of advice for you. Whether it's martial strength, power, or wealth, you have to work hard to obtain them. It's the same for love. If you don't think of ways to fight and snatch them, how can you win the favor of your sweetheart?" Jiku's body stiffened slightly as she silently looked at the ancient statue. The benevolent voice said earnestly, "There's no hatred in the world for no reason, and there's no love for no reason either. If you want to capture your lover's heart, you have to take the initiative to fight for it and take practical actions. What's the use of crying? Even if you cry until your eyes go blind tonight, that person will still not feel the slightest bit of heartache. Upon hearing this, Jiku immediately shook her head and muttered to herself, "No, that's impossible. Big brother Tianxing is not such a person. He would not be so heartless to me. Moreover, he and senior sister Yunyao are truly in love. They are willing to give up their lives for each other, no matter what. I should be happy for them that they can tie the knot. I will never do anything to destroy their relationship. I'm crying because I want to be sad alone for a while." The old man's voice suddenly became dignified as he scolded angrily, "Foolish! If you like him, you have to fight for it. If you love him, you have to say it. If you don't take the initiative to capture his heart, you will be sad and can only watch him accompany another woman day and night and be in love with each other." But Jiku was suddenly at a loss for words. Her emotions became extremely complicated as she silently lowered her head. The old man said again, "No buts. I just want to ask you, do you want to be with him, to be together forever?" "Of course I want to," Jiku answered almost subconsciously without hesitation. "Then do as I say. I guarantee that you will get what you want and your dream will come true." The old man's voice was sonorous and powerful. It contained an unquestionable dignity and an extremely strong soul-suppressing power. Jiku was caught off guard and his soul power was weak. How could he resist? Her expression suddenly became dazed. Her clear eyes were filled with confusion, and her mind became a little blurry. Can you really help me fulfill my wish?" "Of course. I am a deity omnipotent." The old man's voice was filled with confidence and majesty. Jiku's mind and soul were silently suppressed. He was bewitched by the invisible spiritual energy and gradually lost himself. Her reaction became a little sluggish, and she asked with a dazed expression, "Then what should I do?" The voice said solemnly, "You just need to close your eyes and imagine the result you want, the scene in your dream, and immerse yourself in it." Jiku seemed to be unable to control herself. She slowly sat down under the big tree, leaned against the ancient locust tree, and closed her eyes. Her expression was serene as she immersed herself in her beautiful fantasy. Soon, she entered the dreamland. The surroundings returned to silence, and the night grew darker as if nothing had happened. After Ji Tianxing returned to the monarch palace, he sat in his room for the entire night. The incident that happened in the evening kept replaying in his mind. Ji Ku's heartbroken and tear-streaked face appeared in his mind again and again. His heart was in a mess. He felt both heartache and helplessness. At daybreak, he got up and left Tianxing Palace to rush to Kunwu Palace. "I wonder if Cuckoo came back last night? I hope she can calm down and stop being so sad. I have to talk to Kunwu later and ask him to help persuade Cuckoo." Although Ji Tianxing didn't know how to face Jiku, and it might be awkward if they met again, he was still worried. His heart was full of worry. He couldn't feel at ease until he saw Jiku. Not long after, he flew to Kunwu Palace and landed outside the main gate. After he explained the purpose of his visit to the guard led him into Kunwu Palace. He sat in the guest hall for a while before he saw Kunwu, who was wearing a white fox fur coat, striding into the hall. The two of them exchanged a few words when they met. He went straight to the point and asked, "Kunwu, did Cuckoo come back last night?" "Cuckoo?" Kunwu was startled and asked doubtfully, "Wasn't she always at Xingyu village outside the city? Did you meet her last night?" Hearing him say this, Ji Tianxing knew that Jiku didn't return to the monarch mansion. She most likely went back to Xingyu village. He frowned and said to Kunwu, "Kunwu, send a message to the people of Xingyu village. Did Cuckoo go back last night?" "Tianxing, what happened?" Kunwu realized that something was wrong and had a bad premonition. Ji Tianxing said with a serious expression, "I can't explain it to you for the time being. You send the message first." Kunwu didn't say anything else. He quickly took out a communication jade slip and sent a message to Xingyu village outside the city. After he sent the message, The two of them sat in the main hall and waited in silence. After about 7 minutes, a spiritual light flew from the sky and landed in front of Kunwu. Swoosh! The spiritual light flashed and a communication jade slip appeared in Kunwu's palm. He quickly used his spiritual sense to check the information in the jade slip. After reading it, his expression changed and he frowned. The people of Xingyu village replied. Cuckoo left Xingyu village yesterday afternoon and never returned. Suddenly hearing this news, Ji Tianxing's expression immediately changed, and a deep sense of worry arose in his heart. Oh no! Kunwu's expression also became serious. He was full of doubts and worries. He quickly asked, Tianxing, what happened? What happened to Cuckoo? Ji Tianxing was silent for a moment. He could only explain to him, yesterday evening, Ku asked me to meet her at Guiyan Forest outside the city. He gave a simple explanation of what had happened. After hearing this, Kunwu was even more worried. He said anxiously, Tianxing, how could you leave Cuckoo alone? If something happened to her. Ji Tianxing was full of bitterness. He said in a low voice, how could I follow her in that situation? Forget it. It's my fault. I'll go and find her now. After that, he bowed to Kunwu and stepped out of the main hall. Wait. I'll go with you. Kunwu quickly followed him. He said as he walked out, I'll send the order to send the guards of Xingyu village to find Cuckoo together. Chapter 891. Ji Tianxing and Kunwu left the monarch mansion and rushed to Guiyan Forest outside the city to search for Jiku. After receiving Kunwu's order, the demon guards of Star Moon Villa also rushed to Guiyan Forest and started searching the surroundings. From the time the sun rose until the afternoon, the group had been searching for 6 hours. With Guiyan Forest as the center, everyone searched the area within a 500-mile radius. In the end, it was Ji Tianxing who found Jiku. When he found Jiku, it was near an abandoned temple deep in the mountains. Outside the abandoned and dilapidated ancient temple, there was a broken stone road covered with fallen leaves. On the left side of the road was an ancient black stone statue, and on the right side was an old locust tree that was 100 meters tall. Jiku was lying under the old locust tree, leaning against the rough tree trunk and sleeping peacefully. This unknown ancient temple was hidden deep in the mountains and had not been visited for many years. If Ji Tianxing had not been careful and used his spiritual awareness to detect Jiku's aura, it would have been difficult to find this place. After he found Jiku, he saw that Jiku was safe and sound. There were no injuries on her body and her life force was very stable. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief. However, he called out to Jiku several times, but he could not wake her up. Not long after, Kunwu also rushed over and landed under the old locust tree. Like Ji Tianxing, he saw that Jiku was safe and sound and felt relieved. However, Jiku's eyes were still closed and she was in a deep sleep. She did not react to anything around her. Kunwu saw that something was wrong and quickly shouted, Cuckoo, what's wrong? Wake up! However, it was useless. Jiku was still in a deep sleep. Kunwu turned to look at Ji Tianxing and asked in a worried tone, Tianxing, what's going on? How did Cuckoo become like this? Ji Tianxing shook his head and said with a solemn expression, I don't know what happened to put her in a deep sleep. I can't wake her up no matter what. As he spoke, he carefully observed his surroundings and used his spiritual sense to explore the ancient temple not far away. In the end, everything was normal. The old locust tree, the ancient stone sculptures, and the abandoned and dilapidated temple were all normal. Ji Tianxing frowned and thought for a moment. He then said in a deep voice, Kunwu, we can't stay here for long. Let's take Ku back to the monarch mansion first. She's in a deep sleep, and the situation is a little strange. Let's go back and slowly find out the reason. Kunwu naturally nodded in agreement. After that, Ji Tianxing carried Jiku into the sky and flew back to the monarch mansion at lightning speed. Kunwu gave the guards of Star Moon Manor an order, and quickly followed Ji Tianxing back to the monarch mansion. Nearly 2 hours later, the two of them returned to the Tianxing palace with Ji Ku. Ji Tianxing carried Ji Ku into the secret practice room and put her on the ice jade bed used for healing. Then, he used his spiritual sense power and used the Sushin Dharma eye to carefully observe Ji Ku to find out the reason why she was in a deep sleep. Kun Wu stood aside and looked at Ji Ku anxiously and worriedly, waiting for the results of Ji Tianxing's investigation. After a quarter of an hour, he saw that Ji Tianxing had finished his investigation. He quickly asked, "Tianxing, how is Kuku's situation? Why is she in a deep sleep?" Ji Tianxing shook his head and said with a solemn expression, "I've carefully checked her body. There's nothing wrong with Ku's body, and she hasn't suffered any injuries. It's like she's asleep." "Then why is she in a deep sleep? There must be a reason." Kun Wu was worried and said anxiously, "Tianxing, let's ask the God Teacher to take a look." "All right, I'll go and ask God Teacher Black Feather now." Ji Tianxing had the same idea and agreed without hesitation. He flew out of the Tianxing Palace and rushed to the Black Feather Palace personally to ask God Teacher Black Feather to treat Ji Ku. 2 hours later, he brought God Teacher Black Feather back to the secret room. Ji Ku wasn't the prince of the monarch mansion, so God Teacher Black Feather could ignore him. However, he thought highly of Ji Tianxing and used the Divine Soul secret technique to treat Ji Ku for Ji Tianxing's sake. He stood beside the ice jade bed and used the Divine Soul secret technique to release a dense white light that enveloped Ji Ku. Swish! The Divine Soul white light contained a special mysterious power. Soon, he figured out Ji Ku's situation. God Teacher Black Feather withdrew the Divine Soul white light and turned to Ji Tianxing. He said with a serious expression, "Tianxing, Ji Ku isn't injured and her life isn't in danger at the moment. However, her soul spirit is in a deep sleep. It seems like she is in a dream and can't wake up. That dream originated from the depths of the soul spirit and can't be awakened by normal means. We can only enter her dream and try to wake her up." Hearing God Teacher Black Feather's words, Ji Tianxing and Kun Wu's expression changed and revealed a worried expression. Kun Wu asked worriedly, "God Teacher Black Feather, what will happen if Kuku can't wake up?" God Teacher Black Feather said calmly, "Then she will be in a deep sleep in the dream forever and lose herself. There won't be any difference between being alive and being dead. No, we can't let her sleep like this forever." Ji Tianxing shook his head and asked God Teacher Black Feather, "God Teacher, how can we enter her dream and wake her up?" God Teacher Black Feather thought for a moment and said with a serious tone, "I have mastered an ancient divine soul mystic technique called Black Dust Dream. It can help you enter her dream. However, only the people closest to her and the people she trusts the most can enter her dream and have the chance to wake her up. However, no one knows what her dream is like. If you enter her dream recklessly, there might be unexpected dangers. If you want to wake her up, it's best for you to discuss carefully who should enter her dream." Ji Tianxing and Kun Wu looked at each other and said in unison, "Let me do it." After saying that, the two of them went silent for a moment. Kun Wu quickly explained, "Tianxing, I am Kuku's brother. She left us not long after she was born. We owe her too much. I won't let her suffer any harm. Let me complete the task of waking her up." Ji Tianxing shook his head and said with a serious tone, "Kun Wu, this happened because of me. I have to solve it. Otherwise, I won't feel at ease. I hurt Kuku's heart. Her dream is most likely related to me. Therefore, it's more suitable for me to wake her up." But Kun Wu was still worried and wanted to persuade him. However, Ji Tianxing said with a firm tone, "No buts. It's decided." After saying that, he turned to look at God Teacher Black Feather and said with a serious expression, "God Teacher, you can start using the mystic technique." God Teacher Black Feather nodded slightly and said with a serious expression, "Tianxing, since you have decided to enter Ji Ku's dream, you have to remember one thing. Her dream might be grotesque. No matter what you see, don't be confused. It's all an illusion. No matter what danger you and her encounter, you have to stay alive. Chapter 892. After listening to God teacher He Yu's advice, Ji Tianxing and Kuan Wu both frowned. It's actually so strange. If one dies in the dream realm, their soul will also be destroyed? The two of them never thought that something as illusory as the dream realm would have such terrifying power. God teacher He Yu nodded and said seriously, Jiku was affected by some kind of soul power, which is why she fell into the spiritual dream realm and can't wake up. This spiritual dream realm is strange and dangerous. You have to be careful when dealing with it. When you enter the dream realm, you can only wake Jiku up and let the spiritual dream realm dissipate. Only then can you and her wake up. Otherwise, you will be like her, forever trapped in her dream realm with no way to escape. God teacher He Yu remained silent for a while before continuing, Ji Tianxing, you better think carefully before making a decision. Kuan Wu also looked at Ji Tianxing with a face full of worry. She advised, Tianxing, this is too dangerous. Ji Tianxing shook his head and said firmly, no matter how dangerous it is, I have to try my best to wake Kuku up. No matter what, I will do my best to protect her. I won't let her get hurt. Seeing how determined he was, God teacher He Yu and Kuan Wu stopped persuading him. Tianxing, you go lie on the icy jade bed as well. Lie beside Jiku. God teacher He Yu pointed at the icy jade bed and said with a serious expression. Ji Tianxing followed his instructions and lay beside Jiku. Close your eyes and relax your mind and soul. I'm going to use the black dust dream secret technique. Ji Tianxing did as he was told. He closed his eyes and allowed his mind and soul to relax. After that, God teacher He Yu made hand seals and released a mysterious white soul light. He drew out many seals and started to use the black dust dream secret technique. Rays of white soul light landed on Ji Tianxing and Ji Ku's bodies and enveloped them. After 100 breaths of time, their bodies were covered by the white soul light. Ji Tianxing gradually lost consciousness and fell into a deep sleep. His soul was protected by the white light of his divine soul, and he silently entered Ji Ku's dream. Shua. Ji Tianxing only saw a white light flash in front of his eyes, and then he came to another world. He appeared on a wide and tidy street out of thin air, looking around with confusion and confusion. It was an ancient and majestic city. The sky was blue and the sun was shining brightly. He was standing on a wide street paved with bluestone slabs. Both sides of the street were crowded with humans and demons. There were at least 10,000 of them. Behind the crowd were rows upon rows of shops, tall buildings, and palaces. The streets were filled with hubbub of voices. The citizens were in high spirits, whispering and cheering as if they were welcoming the arrival of a certain important figure. So this is Ku's dream. Ji Tianxing originally thought that Ji Ku's dream would be absurd and bizarre, and it was very likely that some unexpected scenes would appear. However, he never thought that Ji Ku's dream would be like this, and it felt somewhat familiar. The bluestone street under his feet, the humans and demons on the side of the street, and the rows of shops and houses. Everything was exactly the same as the streets of Central State City. The laughter of countless citizens clearly entered his ears. The expressions on the citizens' faces, their lively eyes, everything was so realistic. He stood on the bluestone street, but he could not tell whether this world was real or fake. Not far away from him, a few human beings were talking excitedly. Today is so festive and lively. All the citizens of the city have been alarmed. That's right. After all, today is young Master Ji's wedding day. How could it not be lively? It's not just our Central State City. All the citizens of the world know of this good news. Why hasn't the bridal sedan arrived yet? I really want to see young Master Ji's peerless elegance with my own eyes, and see the incomparably beautiful bride. Young Master Ji is such a prodigy of the Emperor's son, it's already a blessing for us to be able to see him. As for young Master G's beautiful wife, how could he let us see her? I don't even need to look to know that if she can marry young Master G, how could she be an ordinary woman? She must be a peerless beauty who can topple a city. When Ji Tianqing heard this discussion, he immediately frowned, and his heart was filled with doubts. Prodigy of the Emperor's son, young Master G? He's getting married today? The young Master G they are talking about, could it be me? At this moment, the citizens on both sides of the street suddenly burst into excited cheers. Look, the bridal sedan is here. It's here, it's here. The bride is coming. Don't block me, I want to see young Master G with my own eyes. When Ji Tianqing heard the thunderous cheers, he hurriedly raised his head to look at the end of the street. He saw that at the end of the bluestone street, there was an honor guard of about 200 people slowly walking over. It was a solemn wedding procession. There were nearly 200 guards and maidservants, all wearing bright red clothes. There were dozens of guards beating gongs and drums, playing joyous music. There were dozens of guards in the procession, holding bright red lanterns and red flowers, as well as many red gauze curtains. There were dozens of maidservants in red dresses, carrying baskets of flowers. They waved their slender hands and scattered flowers into the sky. There were also more than 30 elite guards guarding the surroundings of a huge flower carriage. The jade sedan was made of gold, jade, and precious stones. It was incomparably luxurious and exquisite, and its surface was inlaid with hundreds of colorful flowers. It was magnificent. 6 handsome dragon horses pulled the jade sedan side by side, slowly moving along the bluestone street. In the bridal sedan, which was wrapped in fresh flowers, a young woman wearing a bright red wedding dress and a red veil could be vaguely seen. Although the woman's face could not be seen clearly, just from her vague figure, one could tell that she was a beauty who could topple a city. Ji Tianqing stood on the street and stared at the wedding procession. His expression became somewhat complicated. Of course, he recognized that the nearly 200 guards and maidservants were the honor guard of Tianqing Palace. The scene in front of him was the scene of him marrying the bride. But he knew that this was Ji Ku's dream, and not something that happened in reality. He was a little nervous and a little confused, because he did not know who the beautiful woman wearing a wedding dress and a red veil in the exquisite and beautiful bridal sedan was. Unknowingly, the wedding procession was getting closer and closer to him. The joyous sound of gongs and drums became deafening. The people on both sides of the street only noticed him now, and they all looked at him with complicated gazes. Many people were discussing in confusion, and some people even scolded him, telling him to leave. But Ji Tianqing stood in the middle of the street, his eyes fixed on the beautiful red figure in the bridal sedan, and he had no intention of giving way. Finally, the wedding procession was in front of him, and had to stop. The deafening sound of gongs and drums gradually stopped, and many guards and maidservants looked at him. The eyes of the people on both sides of the street were also focused on him. The scene quieted down, and the atmosphere was a bit strange. Countless people were whispering. At this time, the beautiful red figure in the bridal sedan lifted a corner of the red veil. She stretched out her hand to push aside the beaded curtain of the bridal sedan, and looked at Ji Tianqing. When she saw Ji Tianqing's face clearly, her clear eyes showed a touch of joy, a trace of shyness, and a strong sense of confusion. She lowered her head slightly and asked in confusion, "Brother Tianqing, why are you here? Today is our big day, why aren't you wearing your wedding dress?" Ji Tianqing saw her appearance clearly, and he was stunned. This was because the bride wearing a red wedding dress and a red veil was actually Ji Ku. The wife I am marrying is actually Kuku? This is Kuku's dream? Chapter 893. Ji Ku's dream turned out to be a scene like this. Although Ji Tianqing was a little surprised, he wasn't confused. After all, he understood Ji Ku's feelings. Her heart was completely tied to him. He didn't mean to hurt Ji Ku, but he entered Ji Ku's dream to wake her up. Therefore, he stared at Ji Ku in the bridal sedan and said in a sincere tone, "Kuku, This is all fake. It's all your dream. Wake up quickly. As soon as he said that, the commoners on both sides of the street immediately went into an uproar and burst into discussions. Who is this fellow? What nonsense is he spouting? How despicable! This fellow actually dares to obstruct the bridal procession and ruin young Master G's wedding. Where are the guards? Why aren't you chasing this troublemaker away? No. That white-robed youth seems to be young Master G. What? How can he be young Master G? Isn't today his big day? In the exquisite bridal sedan, Jiku, who was dressed splendidly with a golden jade phoenix coronet and a golden buyao, had a drastic change in expression. She frowned and her beautiful face was filled with confusion. Her voice was filled with worry and anxiety as she asked, "Big brother Tianqing, what's wrong? There's not enough time. Don't talk nonsense. Quickly go back and change into your wedding clothes. Don't make a fool of yourself in front of everyone." Ji Tianqing had already expected her to react this way. He patiently explained, "Cuckoo, you must believe me. This is all your dream. It's definitely not real. I know you're very sad and disappointed, but the wife I'm marrying is Yun Yao." The crowd on both sides of the street immediately erupted into even more intense discussions and cries of surprise. Jiku's beautiful face also turned pale. The embarrassment and joy on her face and in her eyes immediately vanished. Her body stiffened as she stood rooted to the ground. As if she had suddenly regained her senses, her mood instantly became heavy and sorrowful. After a long silence, her body trembled slightly. Her clear eyes filled with tears and her voice was choked with sobs. "No. This wasn't a dream, it was real. Big brother Tianqing, we've been childhood sweethearts. You're the only one in my heart. I like you so much. If I can't marry you, I'd rather not live in this world." Jiku's face was full of tears. Her tone was sorrowful but firm. Ripples appeared in Ji Tianqing's heart. He felt touched, sad, and guilty at the same time. However, he suppressed the guilt and remorse in his heart. He stared at Ji Ku and said sincerely, "Ku, you and I both know that this is impossible. Why are you so stubborn? If you fall into a dream and are unable to extricate yourself, you will never wake up, we're all worried about you." Ji Ku shook her head with a miserable expression. She clutched her red wedding dress tightly and said with tears streaming down her face, "No, it's not like that. How could this be a dream? Even if it's a dream, I'd rather live in a dream than wake up. At the very least, I can marry you in the dream and live with you until we grow old together." She raised her sleeve to wipe away the tears in her eyes. She looked at Ji Tianqing with teary eyes and said, "Big brother Tianqing, I know you love eldest senior sister. She's the one you want to marry. If I wake up, I'd like to see you leave me and marry eldest senior sister. However, I don't want to accept reality. I'd rather live in a dream. At least I can fulfill my long-cherished wish. Big brother Tianqing, I beg you, please fulfill my wish. Even if it's only a dream, as long as you're willing to take me as your wife and marry me, I'll die without regrets." Die without regrets? Ji Tianqing frowned and felt a sense of danger. Before he entered the dream, Divine Mentor He Yu had warned him seriously. No matter if it was him or Ji Ku, they had to stay alive in the dream. They couldn't die. Otherwise, their souls would be obliterated and they would truly die. Thinking of this, he hurriedly shook his head and refused. He patiently consoled her. "Cuckoo, please forgive me for not being able to go against my heart and marry you. Don't be silly. I'm not worth it for you to do this. You can't have any thoughts of suicide. Don't worry, I won't leave you. I'm still your big brother Tianqing. I'll always love you and protect you." Hearing his words, Jiku, who was in the flower carriage, could no longer hold back her grief. Her tears fell like rain as she cried loudly. "Big brother Tianqing, even if it's only a dream, you're still unwilling to marry me? Could it be that I won't be able to receive your love in this life? Then what's the point of me living? In the next life, In the next life, I'll only have you in my heart. It'll never change. Jiku stammered out these words. It was as if she had exhausted all her strength and lost the support of her spirit. Her heart was like dead ashes as she collapsed in the flower carriage. She slowly closed her eyes as if she had fallen asleep, entering a deeper level of sleep. Ji Tianqing immediately became even more anxious and worried. He hurriedly called out, "Cuckoo! Wake up quickly! You're already in a dream. You can't sleep anymore. Pull yourself together. If you sleep any longer, you'll never wake up." Unfortunately, Jiku had already lost consciousness and didn't respond. Ji Tianqing was filled with anxiety. He hurriedly rushed towards the guards of honor. He wanted to enter the flower carriage and take the unconscious Jiku away. However, at this moment, something strange happened. Swoosh! A black shadow suddenly appeared in the sky. It descended from the sky and landed on the wide street, blocking Ji Tianqing and the bridal escort team. Ji Tianqing hurriedly stopped in his tracks. He focused his eyes and saw that the black shadow was a burly man in a black robe. This person was more than 3 meters tall. He was thin and tall like a bamboo pole. His arms were unusually long. His entire face was dark purple and his pupils were suffused with a scarlet light. Obviously, this black-robed man was a demon. He stood proudly in the middle of the street with his hands behind his back. He looked down at Ji Tianqing and let out a sinister laugh. Ji Tianqing, I didn't expect that the first time I saw you would be in this little girl's dream. Your deeds have been circulating in the middle state. Legend has it that you're the #1 genius of the human race. You're extremely talented and intelligent. I didn't expect that an unparalleled genius like you would also have a weakness, and that is love. Ji Tianqing frowned and looked at him sharply. He said in a cold voice, "Love is the most difficult thing to understand. You don't know where it starts, but it goes deeper. The living can die and the dead can also live. Even sages and deities can't forget love. I'm just a mortal. Even if I'm trapped by love, so what? You're a sinister and despicable demon. You took advantage of my weakness and used Ku's dream to deal with me. You're really shameless." The black-robed man didn't get angry. Instead, he grinned and his smile became even more contemptuous. Ji Tianqing, if you knew who I was, you wouldn't think so. Because I'm neither a human nor a demon. I'm the great Jia Luo Brahma Soul Nightmare. Chapter 894. Big Jia Luo Brahma Soul Nightmare? Nightmare? Ji Tianqing was stunned. He frowned as he stared at the nightmare. His eyes were filled with a cold light. This was the first time he had seen the legendary nightmare. He had read about nightmares in a book before, so he had a rough understanding of the mysterious nightmares. The nightmare was a powerful force that existed in reality. It was similar to the heart demon. It was illusory and did not have a physical body. As the name implied, the nightmare only existed in dreams. It did not have a physical body, so it could not cause any substantial harm to a martial artist. It could only bewitch a person's mind and use the power of a person's dream to kill or achieve other goals. Unfortunately, Ji Tianqing's understanding of the nightmare was limited to this. He could guess that the nightmare must have taken advantage of Ji Ku's heartbreak to bewitch her mind and invade her dream. However, he did not know how the nightmare killed people in the dream, nor did he know how to deal with the nightmare. He turned his head and looked around. He realized that both sides of the street were silent. Whether it was the wedding procession or the tens of thousands of people on both sides of the street, they were all frozen in place like stone statues, unable to move. Other than him and the nightmare, everyone else was motionless. It was as if time had stopped flowing. Such a strange scene made him even more certain that the nightmare was controlling Ji Ku's dream. At this moment, the nightmare sneered contemptuously. The reason why the human race is lowly, petty, and weak is because they are bound and shackled by the 7 emotions and 6 desires. Speaking of which, it is funny. No matter how talented a genius is or how powerful a martial artist is, they will be trapped by emotions and even end up dying miserably. Ji Tianxing, you are no exception. You know that this little girl is in a dream, and you still dare to enter her dream. You really don't know what death is. Today, you will die in the dream. I am benevolent and will give you a chance to say your last words. Ha ha! The nightmare laughed wildly. He had a well-thought-out attitude, completely treating Ji Tianxing as a dead man. You demon, you are courting death. Ji Tianxing's eyes flashed with a cold light. He raised his palms without hesitation and released a huge golden sword light that slashed towards the nightmare. Shwa! The 30-meter-long golden sword streaked across the sky like a bolt of lightning, instantly striking the black-robed nightmare. However, when the giant golden sword was 3 inches away from its head, it suddenly stopped and remained motionless. Unexpectedly, the black-robed nightmare demon raised his palms at the critical moment and forcefully clamped down on the golden greatsword, blocking it. With a flip of its palms, it erupted with a power that could destroy the heavens and the earth. Immediately, it crushed the giant golden sword into pieces, making cracking sounds. The fragments of golden light scattered all over the street and soon dissipated. Dream Demon clapped his hands indifferently, as if he had done something insignificant. It looked at Ji Tianxing from the corner of its eyes and said contemptuously, "I said that today is the day you die. Your soul will be completely destroyed. Give up resisting. No matter how much you struggle, it's futile." As he spoke, Nightmare raised his right palm and lightly slapped toward Ji Tianxing. A 5-meter-wide black palm shadow appeared, bringing with it a violent and unparalleled power. It was as fast as the aurora as it blasted toward him. Ji Tianxing's pupils shrank. Unable to dodge in time, he quickly closed his golden wings to protect himself. Purring! With a dull sound, the black palm shadow viciously slammed into him, sending him flying 1,000 meters away and smashing into a palace at the end of the street. A violent shockwave exploded, shattering the entire palace and turning it into a pile of rubble. Hundreds of people in the palace were affected. Some were killed on the spot, while others were heavily injured and vomited blood as they were buried in the ruins. Ji Tianxing jumped out of the ruins with a pale face. He violently coughed a few times, blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. Without a doubt, Nightmare Demon had the strength of a spirit refinement realm cultivator. A casual palm strike had injured him. Shwa! Before he could recover, the black-robed Nightmare Demon teleported 1,000 meters away and appeared above the ruins. Nightmare Demon looked down at him from above and sneered, "Stubborn fool, kneel down and accept your death." As his voice fell, he raised his right palm again and formed a huge black palm shadow. He viciously slammed it toward Ji Tianxing. His attack was simple, but it was violent and effective. It was unstoppable. Ji Tianxing knew how strong his opponent was, so he did not hesitate to use his trump card, the Pure Heart Demon Suppression Art. Demon Slaying Sword. His body lit up with a resplendent golden light and a sacred and majestic aura. He waved his hands and formed a mysterious seal, forming a sacred golden sword and slamming it toward the black palm shadow above him. Purring! The sacred golden sword and the black palm shadow collided, creating a dull sound. In that instant, a huge hole was pierced through the black palm shadow by the giant sword, and it exploded into a black mist that filled the sky. The sacred golden sword's power did not decrease as it pierced the black-robed Nightmare Demon in the sky. Purring! The black-robed Nightmare Demon was shattered by the golden sword on the spot, bursting into black mist and quickly dissipating. Seeing this scene, Ji Tianxing was not happy at all. His expression was still solemn. He knew very well that the Nightmare Demon was stronger than the 5th Demon General, the Left Marshal. It was impossible for it to be defeated so easily. The facts proved that his guess was right. Just as he left the ruins and flew to the sky above the street, the black-robed Nightmare Demon appeared in front of him and blocked his path. Kakik. I forgot to tell you. As the Grand Formation Brahma Soul Nightmare Demon, I am an invincible existence in the dream realm. The black-robed Nightmare Demon sneered proudly and waved his hands again, forming a sword light that blotted out the sky and attacked Ji Tianqing. Whoosh! 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 Hundreds and thousands of dark and cold sword lights poured down like a rain of arrows, submerging the area within 1,000 meters. Ji Tianqing was hit by countless sword lights and fell from the sky, crashing into the ground. Pung! 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 The powerful sword lights and saber lights fiercely hacked into the ground, shattering the bluestone street. The thousands of civilians on both sides of the street were also killed on the spot, turning into pieces of flesh and blood. Rows of exquisite houses and palaces were also destroyed, leaving behind only broken walls and broken brick. The area within 1,000 meters was immediately turned into a desolate ruin. Only the wedding procession on the other side of the street was still standing like a stone statue. It was not destroyed, but it also showed no reaction to this. A moment later, Ji Tianqing's figure climbed out of the ruins in a sorry state and flew back into the sky. His long hair was disheveled, his white robe was stained with blood, and there was still a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. Although he had suffered heavy injuries, he was still fearless. He used his ultimate skill again and attacked the black-robed Nightmare Demon. Chapter 895. Ji Tianqing was unable to awaken Ji Ku, so he could only pin his hopes on the Nightmare Demon. The Nightmare Demon had plotted this scheme and controlled this dreamland. He believed that as long as he killed the Nightmare Demon, he could destroy the dreamland and awaken Ji Ku. Demon Sealing Palm. His body surged with sacred golden light as he waved his palms again, slamming out a giant golden palm with a radius of 10 meters towards the Nightmare Demon. Hee, it's just an insignificant trick. What a disgrace. The Nightmare Demon was already prepared and did not take his ultimate move seriously. He even mocked him contemptuously. Swish! As he spoke, his figure flashed and teleported 1,000 meters away, dodging the Demon Sealing Palm's attack and appearing behind Ji Tianqing in an eerie manner. The terrifyingly powerful Demon Sealing Palm suddenly missed its target and slammed into one of the palaces, smashing the magnificent palace into pieces. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the Nightmare Demon waved his sleeves and shot out 3 beams of black light towards Ji Tianqing. The 3 beams of black light condensed into black dragons that were 100 meters long. They looked ferocious and ferocious. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws as they pounced on Ji Tianqing, drowning his figure. Boom! 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 He could not dodge in time and was hit by the 3 black dragons. An earth-shattering power erupted, and a huge black mushroom cloud appeared in the sky. The violent shockwave swept across a radius of 10 miles, destroying countless houses, shops, and palaces. At least 30,000 innocent civilians were killed on the spot, killed by the shockwave or buried in the ruins. Even the wedding procession of 200 people was destroyed. All the guards and maids were killed. Only the huge flowery carriage that was as big as a house was still intact and beautiful. After a long while, the earth-shattering explosion gradually dissipated. Ji Tianqing turned into a golden stream of light and emerged from the ruins of the deep pit, flying back into the sky. Fortunately, he had folded his wings at the critical moment and blocked the 3 black dragons' attack. That was how he survived. However, the golden wings had already exhausted all of their power and had become dull and lifeless. His face turned paler as blood flowed out of his nose and mouth. His injuries were getting worse. Half of his white robe was dyed red with blood, and there was a hole in his chest with blood gushing out. His long hair was scattered behind his head. It was stained with dust and mixed with dark red blood, making him look extremely wretched and miserable. Even so, he did not retreat. Instead, he used his ultimate move again and attacked the Nightmare Demon. Damned demon, go to hell! His body ignited with golden flames as he turned into a stream of light and charged at the nightmare demon. He opened the third eye on his forehead. Thunderbolt! An endless amount of lightning was released from his azure-blue spirit eyes. It gathered into a lightning pillar and struck the dream demon fiercely. Kaboom! Amidst a deafening explosion, the nightmare demon was blasted to smithereens on the spot. It turned into black mist and dissipated. The thunderbolt bolt out hit the bluestone street. Bam! With a muffled sound, a deep crater with a radius of dozens of meters appeared on the stone floor 100 meters away from the exquisite flower carriage. Dirt and rocks flew everywhere, and huge gullies appeared all around. Within a radius of 10 miles, the ground was shaking and the mountains were shaking. The exquisite flower carriage was also shaking violently, and countless fresh flowers were falling down. Jiku, who was sleeping in the carriage, was awakened. She suddenly moved her fingers. The tears on her face had yet to dry. Her long eyelashes were still wet, and there was a teardrop at the corner of her eye. However, she was still in a daze. She was half asleep and could not even open her eyes. The nightmare demon appeared again in the sky above the ruins. It had reformed its body. Not only was it unharmed, but its strength was not reduced either. "Kid, you really won't cry until you see the coffin. I am absolutely invincible. Even if you break me 1,000,000 times, I can immediately recover. You will never be able to hurt me." The black-robed nightmare demon roared in an arrogant tone. He waved his palm again, releasing an earth-shattering black light towards Ji Tianxing. Ji Tianxing blocked and counterattacked while thinking of a way to break it. Damned nightmare demon! It is so strange. Even if I use the white heart demon subduing art, I can't hurt it. What should I do? How can I break out of this dream? Killing the nightmare demon to destroy the dream was obviously an impossible task. His only hope was to awaken Jiku. Only when Jiku was truly awake could he end this dream. Only then could he and Jiku be safe. Therefore, Ji Tianxing fought with the nightmare demon while shouting for Jiku. "Kuku, wake up! Don't sleep anymore. Otherwise we will all die in this dream. Kuku, me, big senior sister, Yener, Kun Wu, and your parents are all very worried about you. You can't give up." However, even if he shouted until his throat was hoarse, he could not awaken Jiku. In just 20 breaths of time, he was sent flying by the nightmare demon 3 times. His injuries were getting worse and worse. Finally, when he was sent flying by the nightmare demon for the 4th time, he crashed into the ground not far from the carriage. Boom! Amidst the deafening noise, the ground was smashed into a deep crater with a radius of dozens of meters. Gravel and dust flew all over the place. The ground cracked and numerous cracks appeared. The violent impact force pushed the chariot back by 30 meters, and it almost flipped over on the ground. Jiku, who was in the carriage, was finally awakened. She opened her eyes in a daze. She slowly sat up and looked around. She saw that there was no one around the carriage. The solemn guard of honor had disappeared. The countless people on both sides of the street were all gone. The wide street, houses, and palaces were all in ruins. There were broken gravel and pits everywhere. Many people's corpses were scattered around. Seeing this scene, her expression changed drastically. Her eyes were filled with confusion and shock. How could this be? What happened? Pung, pung, pung. Sounds of explosions kept ringing in their ears, and violent hurricanes kept attacking, shaking the flower carriage to the point that it was swaying left and right, and the bead curtain was also violently swaying in the wind. Jiku raised her head to look at the sky in front of her. She immediately saw the source of the fighting. Ji Tianxing, whose white robe was stained with blood, was fighting with a black-robed demon. Their fight was earth-shattering and the sun and moon were dim. The black-robed demon was very strong. He completely suppressed Ji Tianxing. He kept sending Ji Tianxing flying. He kept vomiting blood and his injuries were getting worse. Moreover, his methods were very strange. He seemed to have an immortal body. No matter what ultimate move Ji Tianxing used to smash him into pieces, he could reform his body. His fighting strength was not reduced at all. Seeing this scene, Jiku's face was filled with worry. Her heart was also clenched. Her eyes turned red again. She anxiously shouted, "Big brother Tianxing, be careful!" Ji Tianxing, who was fighting in the sky, heard Jiku's call. He immediately became alert and shouted happily, "Cuckoo, that's great! You're finally awake." Chapter 896. End this dream. Jiku was stunned for a moment. She revealed a confused and anxious expression, not knowing what to do. She had just woken up and didn't understand what was going on. At this moment, the black-robed nightmare sent Ji Tianxing flying again with a palm strike. He fell from the sky and smashed into a palace. The palace was smashed into pieces on the spot. Ji Tianxing spat out blood and fell weakly into the ruins. He struggled a few times but couldn't climb out. He had almost exhausted all his strength and his injuries were extremely serious. His body was dyed red with blood, almost turning him into a bloodied man. At most, he would be killed by the nightmare on the spot after 3 to 5 more strikes. In the dream, the nightmare was invincible. He could only passively take a beating. If he continued to fight, he would die without a doubt. Seeing this scene, Jiku's face turned pale with heartache. Clear tears flowed from her eyes as she desperately shook her head and shouted, "No! Big brother Tianxing, nothing must happen to you. I don't want to dream anymore, and I don't want to marry you. I just want you to be safe. As long as you can live on, I'm willing to do anything." High in the sky, the black-robed nightmare heard Jiku's shouts and immediately looked at her with a cold expression. "Little bitch. You've already entered the dream, and you still want to leave? In your dreams." The black-robed nightmare roared angrily. He waved his hand and released wisps of black gas, which flew towards Jiku in the flower carriage. The mysterious black gas contained the power to suppress souls. It immediately calmed Jiku down. She calmed down and stopped crying. The worry and anxiety in her heart also gradually dissipated. Her consciousness also became blurry. Her eyes were a little dazed. It was obvious that her mind had been bewitched again. Seeing this, the heavily injured Ji Tianxing desperately struggled to climb out of the ruins. He shouted at Jiku, "Cuckoo! Wake up! You can't sleep anymore." When Jiku heard his voice, her eyes became much clearer. Her soul and consciousness struggled desperately to escape the dream. Dream Demon furrowed his brows and shouted in a dignified voice, "Jiku, didn't you say that you loved Ji Tianxing deeply? Was her lifelong wish to stay by his side and grow old together with him? Could it be that you're going back on your words and treating love as child's play? Don't wake up. Stay in the dream forever. Ji Tianxing will accompany you for the rest of your life and never leave. In the dream, no one will stop you from being together, and no one will disturb you." Dream Demon's voice contained a powerful soul-suppressing power, constantly bewitching Jiku's mind. Jiku was finally about to wake up, but he was immediately bewitched by the Dream Demon. He became delirious and his eyes were confused. Ji Tianxing became even more anxious and worried. As he called out to Jiku, he roared and charged at Nightmare. "Damned demon, you deserve to die!" Dream Demon stood proudly in the sky. Seeing Ji Tianxing charging over without a care for his own safety, he raised his right palm and slammed it down. Bam! A huge black palm shadow fell from the sky and hit Ji Tianxing, causing him to spit out blood. He was smashed into the ruins again, causing debris to fly all over the sky and explode with a loud boom. Jiku's mind suddenly became much clearer. She looked at Ji Tianxing with worry in her eyes. Seeing Ji Tianxing severely injured and on the verge of death, her heart was filled with anger and worry. She glared at Dream Demon and shouted coldly, "Demon! How dare you hurt my big brother Tianxing? I'll kill you!" As she spoke, she flew out of the flower carriage and charged at Dream Demon in the sky. Don't! Ji Tianxing couldn't care less about his injuries. He hurriedly shouted, "You're no match for it. Wake up. End the dream quickly." Dream Demon looked down at Jiku and said in a contemptuous tone, "Stupid." A black palm shadow fell from the sky and slammed into Jiku. She spat out a mouthful of blood and flew backwards miserably, falling into the flower carriage. Dream Demon stood in the sky and looked down at Ji Tianqing, who was in the ruins, and Jiku, who was in the broken flower carriage. She sneered mockingly. "Jiku, didn't you want to be with Ji Tianqing forever? Although you can't be born on the same day, you can die on the same day. I'll kill you now and let you be a ghost couple." As soon as she finished speaking, Dream Demon waved her palms and accumulated enough power to destroy the world. She was going to use her ultimate move to kill Ji Tianqing and Jiku. The sky within 100 miles was immediately covered by black clouds and became dark. The boundless black chi condensed into two extremely ferocious black dragons that were over 1,000 meters long. "Go to hell!" Dream Demon roared and controlled the two huge black dragons to attack Ji Tianqing and Jiku. The two ferocious black dragons carried enough power to destroy the world. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws and were about to kill the two of them. At this critical moment, Ji Tianqing and Jiku were seriously injured and could not resist at all. They could only wait for death. Jiku was filled with regret and hatred. Tears welled up in her red eyes as she cried, "Brother Tianqing, if I could turn back time, I would rather die than let you suffer such harm. As long as you can live safely, I will have no regrets even if I die. I'd rather not have such a dream." Then, she bit the tip of her tongue and spat out a mouthful of blood. In the next moment, two ferocious black dragons descended from the sky and drowned Ji Tianqing and Jiku. Boom! There was a deafening explosion. The two of them blacked out and were about to lose consciousness. However, what was strange was that Ji Tianqing heard a clear crack sound along with the loud boom. That kind of shattering sound was like a mirror being smashed. After a long time, the darkness in front of him dissipated and light returned. Before he could see his surroundings clearly, he heard two men's voices. "Tianqing, you're finally out of the dream. Tianqing, are your injuries serious? Where's Cuckoo? Is she okay?" Ji Tianqing immediately recognized the voices. It was God Master Black Feather and Kuan Wu's voices. They were filled with concern. He tried his best to open his eyes and gradually saw that he was still in the secret chamber, lying on the ice jade bed. Jiku was lying beside him. Her face was pale and blood was flowing out from the corner of her mouth. She was still unconscious. "I understand now. At the moment when Cuckoo and I were about to die, Cuckoo woke up completely and ended the dream. That's why we were able to keep our lives. But why hasn't Ku woken up yet? How's her condition?" Ji Tianqing's heart was filled with worry. He struggled to sit up and check on Jiku's injuries, but just as he sat up, he felt a piercing pain in his organs. His soul and consciousness were also a little blurry. Chapter 897. Ji Tianqing forced himself to endure the injuries of his internal organs. He shook his dizzy head and lowered his head to look at Jiku beside him. Jiku was lying quietly on the ice jade bed. She was unconscious and did not move at all. Even though she was unconscious, her face was as white as snow. There were traces of tears at the corner of her eyes and a trace of blood at the corner of her mouth. Kuan Wu was worried and quickly used her spiritual sense to check on her condition. Divine Master He Yu waved his hand and shot out a 5-colored spiritual light into Ji Tianqing's body to help him suppress his injuries. With the help of Divine Master He Yu, Ji Tianqing's internal injuries were temporarily suppressed. He lifted his sleeve to wipe the blood at the corner of his mouth and asked worriedly, "How's Ku's injury? Is it serious?" Kuan Wu checked for a moment and heaved a sigh of relief. She said, "From what I see, Ku has also left the dream. She has suffered serious internal injuries and her soul is also damaged. She is temporarily unconscious and cannot wake up. However, her injuries are not life-threatening. I will bring her back to recuperate for 10 days to half a month and she will be fine. Ji Tianqing heaved a sigh of relief and was completely relieved. He nodded and said, "That's good. If anything happens to Ku, I will not be able to absolve myself from the blame." Kuan Wu frowned slightly and asked doubtfully, "Tianqing, not long after you entered Ku's dream, you were injured and your injuries kept getting worse. Later on, your injuries were extremely severe and Ku was also injured." She vomited a few mouthfuls of blood. "What kind of danger did you encounter? What is going on with Ku's dream?" Kuan Wu was not the only one who was puzzled. Divine Master He Yu also felt that it was strange. He looked at Ji Tianqing with doubtful eyes. Ji Tianqing didn't try to hide anything. He growled with anger still lingering in his voice. "It's all Nightmare's doing. That damned demon took advantage of Ku's heartbreak and bewitched her mind. He used the dream to deal with us." He told the two of them about what he had seen and experienced in his dream. After Divine Master Blackfeather and Kuan Wu heard this, they were enlightened. They finally understood the cause and process of this matter. However, Kuan Wu frowned in confusion and asked, "What is the origin of the dream demon? To be able to kill with the help of dreams and possess such a strange ability?" Ji Tianqing shook his head and said seriously, "I don't know much about the dream demon. It calls itself the Grand Jia Luo Brahma Soul Nightmare. I've only read about it in books. But one thing is certain, the dream demon's strength is comparable to a demon commander expert. He is an undying existence in the dream realm." God Master He Yu nodded and said in a serious tone, "Tianqing is right. The dream demon has indeed reached the spirit refinement realm and cannot be killed in the dream realm. Furthermore, strictly speaking, the Grand Jia Luo Brahma Soul Nightmare wasn't a demon, human or demon. It was an extremely special existence. It was ethereal and formless, without a physical body. It could only live as a parasite on an object. If it were to fight a person head-on, it would not be able to cause any substantial damage. But it could control the dream realm and use the power of the dream realm to kill people. It was impossible to guard against and could not be blocked. For thousands of years, the dream demon had used the dream realm to kill many experts, causing the experts of various races to be fearful of him. It's a pity that I never had the chance to meet him. Otherwise, I would definitely kill him." God Master He Yu's tone was sonorous, confident, and domineering. He was a half-step primordial soul expert and could easily crush any spirit refinement expert. No matter how strange the dream demon's methods were, he had the corresponding secret techniques and method. He was confident that he could kill the dream demon. However, the dream demon seemed to be afraid of the monarch residence's reputation and did not dare to provoke them. Ji Tianqing and Kuan Wu both looked at God Master He Yu with burning eyes and asked, "God Master, do you know the dream demon very well?" "God Master, the dream demon's methods are so strange. How should we deal with it?" God Master He Yu nodded slightly and said seriously, "The dream demon was a famous expert 1,000 years ago. It has wreaked havoc on the continent for nearly 1,000 years. How can I not know it? Although it is not from the demon race, it is under the command of the ancient demon emperor and has always been by his side. It can weave the dream realm and has a strong calming power. It can help the ancient demon emperor cultivate his divine soul power and can kill without leaving a trace. It can use all kinds of strange secret techniques. Therefore, the dream demon is highly regarded by the ancient demon emperor. Its status is slightly higher than the 6 demon marshals and is equivalent to the ancient demon emperor's military advisor. However, it does not have a physical body and has always been attached to the demon god scepter, following the ancient demon emperor closely. Hearing this, Ji Tianqing and Kuan Wu frowned, and their expressions became more serious. The dream demon's status is so honorable? Isn't it harder to deal with than the 6 demon marshals? God Master, since the dream demon has always been by the ancient demon emperor's side. Now that it has appeared in middle state and almost killed Ku and me, Could it be that the ancient demon emperor has also come to middle state? After saying that, Ji Tianxing looked at God Master Heyu with burning eyes. Kun Wu also reacted. She was shocked and her expression turned ugly. God Master Heyu nodded solemnly and said calmly, "That's right. Tianxing, your deduction is very likely to be true. Ever since we resolved the demon venomous worms, all the demon venomous worms have been destroyed. The demon race hiding in middle state has also disappeared without a trace. On the surface, it seems that the demon race has suffered a great loss and no longer dares to invade middle state. They have all retreated to the northern desert. However, based on my understanding of the ancient demon emperor, the demon race will definitely not let this go. The temporary peace is just an illusion. The ancient demon emperor is very likely to be plotting an even more shocking and vicious plan to take revenge on middle state." Ji Tianxing and Kun Wu were both silent. The atmosphere in the secret room was a little tense. Both of them were in a very heavy mood. After a while, Ji Tianxing asked God Master Heyu, "God Master, what should we do then? Perhaps we can follow the trail of the dream demon and investigate the whereabouts of the ancient demon emperor. We can strike first." Without waiting for him to finish, God Master Heyu shook his head and said calmly, "The dream demon is an illusory existence. It only exists in dreams. Why would it leave clues and traces? It's impossible to find the ancient demon emperor through the dream demon." Ji Tianxing frowned and asked worriedly, "Then what should we do? Are we going to sit here and wait for death?" God Master Heyu waved his hand and said calmly, "I will think of a way to investigate the dream demon and the ancient demon emperor's whereabouts. You don't have to worry. The most important thing now is for you to recuperate in seclusion and recover to your peak condition. You can't affect the wedding ceremony on the 9th of next month." "I understand, Tharch." Ji Tianxing cupped his fists and bowed. God Master Heyu then looked at Kun Wu and instructed, "Kun Wu, bring Jiku back to recuperate. Let her recuperate well. You must look after her and don't let anything happen to her. When I need to, I will look for her to find out more about the dream demon." Kun Wu hurriedly acknowledged the order. God Master Heyu didn't say anything else and left the secret room. Kun Wu also brought the unconscious Jiku back to Kun Wu Palace to recuperate. Chapter 898. For the next few days, everything was calm. Ji Tianxing stayed in Tianxing Palace, recuperating in seclusion in a secret room. After 5 days of recuperation, he relied on his strong self-healing ability and consumed some elixirs to heal his physical injuries. However, it was very difficult to use elixirs to heal soul injuries, and he couldn't recover quickly in a short period of time. He could only use the power of the heaven-mending pearl to slowly heal his soul. The effects of the heaven-mending pearl were very miraculous. After 5 days of recuperation, his soul injuries had already recovered by more than half. Next, as long as he recuperated with the heaven-mending pearl for another half a month, his soul injuries would be completely healed. On the morning of the 6th day, he ended his seclusion and left the secret room. He first went to Kunwu Palace to check on Jiku's injuries. When he arrived at Kunwu Palace, he only saw Kunwu and didn't see Jiku. He asked Kunwu and found out that Jiku had woken up 3 days ago. Jiku's injuries were no longer serious, so he left the monarch mansion and stayed in Xingyu village outside the city to recuperate. After hearing this news, Ji Tianxing felt a little comforted and bid farewell to Kunwu. He didn't go to Xingyu village to visit Jiku in person. It was enough to know that she was fine. Even if they met now, it would only add to the awkwardness and annoyance. It was better to let time dilute all of this and talk about it later. After returning to Tianxing Palace, Ji Tianxing rummaged through the study, looking for books related to the nightmare demon. He wanted to know more about the nightmare demon so that he could at least be prepared. The nightmare demon's sudden appearance meant that the demon emperor was very likely to come to Zhongzhou. This made him feel even more pressured and urgent. In 20 days, he and Yun Yao would be married. He didn't want any more twists and turns. Not long after, he found 5 ancient history books and biographies. He placed them on the desk and carefully read them. These history books and biographies had scattered records of the nightmare demon's deeds and news. Ji Tianxing used his spiritual sense to quickly flip through the book. It only took him 45 minutes to finish reading the 5 ancient books that were as thick as brick. After reading these ancient books, he had a deeper understanding of nightmares. Incubi were special existences with strange and unpredictable abilities that allowed them to enter and control other people's dreams. However, it was not omnipotent. At the very least, it couldn't enter the dreams of those who were stronger than it. Because of this, it had used the dream world to kill many powerful people, but it had never dared to provoke the god-tier masters of the imperial residence. In addition, the incubus could enter other people's dreams, but if the dreamer's will was strong enough, it would not be able to control the dream. After understanding these 2 points, Ji Tianxing suddenly came to a realization. No wonder Dream Demon didn't dare to make a move against him even though God Teacher Black Feather wanted to deal with him. 'Cause mind was bewitched by the Dream Demon. After the dream realm was controlled, she was immersed in the dream realm, unable to wake up. When I was heavily injured by the Dream Demon and was on the verge of death, Ku was filled with grief and despair. Her will was incomparably firm, so she was able to wake up at the last moment and end the dream realm. This means that as long as my will is firm enough, even if the Dream Demon can invade my dream realm, it can't do anything to me. After understanding this point, Ji Tianxing was finally relieved. He left the study and returned to the secret room, continuing his closed-door cultivation. He wanted to increase his strength as much as possible before the wedding ceremony, so that he could deal with all kinds of dangers and unforeseen events. To the north of Central State City, 500 miles away, there was a continuous mountain range. It was different from normal mountain ranges. These mountain ranges did not have dark green forests or vegetation, only sparse ancient trees and wild grass. Most of the mountain ranges were dark brown in color, revealing jagged rocks and dirt, looking very desolate and lonely. Among the many mountain ranges, there was a 10,000-foot tall dark brown mountain peak, like a crane in a flock of chickens, standing alone. This precipitous mountain peak, covered in rocks, was called Mountain of No Return. 1,000 years ago, when the demon race's chaos broke out, many brave and righteous people of Central State were filled with hot blood as they crossed this black mountain, heading to the northern desert to resist the demon race. Even though those brave warriors knew that heading to the northern desert to resist the demon race was a path of no return with 9 deaths and 1 life. But everyone bravely sacrificed themselves, not fearing death. In the end, countless brave warriors buried their hot blood and heroic souls forever in the northern desert. Later generations, in order to remember those brave warriors and martyrs from 1,000 years ago, named this Black Mountain Mountain of No Return. It was currently late at night, the world was completely silent. There was no moon tonight, the night sky was as black as ink, and there was a sinister and cold wind whistling. A wisp of faintly discernible black energy streaked across the night sky like an aurora, silently flying towards Mountain of No Return. In a short 100 breaths of time, the black energy crossed 100 miles, entering Mountain of No Return. In the belly of Mountain of No Return, there was a pitch-black and ice-cold passage, twisting and turning as it led underground. There were forks on both sides of the passage. Most of them were deliberately set up to confuse people's minds. Although there was no one guarding the passage, there were hidden formations and powerful restrictions set up every few 100 meters. If someone unfamiliar with the situation rashly barged in, they would definitely be killed by the invisible formations. Even Heaven Prime cultivators were no exception. Whoosh! That wisp of black energy quickly passed through the passage, ignoring the many traps, hidden weapons, and formations. It quickly reached the deepest part of the passage. A black stone door that was 100 meters tall blocked the end of the passage. The two stone doors were tightly shut. A pair of ferocious-looking asuras with sharp claws and wings were carved on the door, appearing solemn and mysterious, filled with dense demon chi. Without a doubt, the stone door was sealed by a powerful formation. Ordinary people would not be able to open it, but that wisp of black energy was as light as a feather, passing through the seal formation and entering behind the stone door. Behind the door was a huge, empty, and gloomy cave. The cave had a radius of 1,000 meters, surrounded by dark brown rock walls. The ground was also made of black rock, slightly uneven. Wisps of demon chi permeated the air, and a ball of bloody light rose from the center of the cave like a ball of fire. Under the bloody light was a huge demon Dao formation. The ground was carved with mysterious demon Dao patterns, crisscrossing patterns, and ancient demon race symbols. A demon race man who was more than 10 feet tall, had 2 heads, and a head full of white hair. He was sitting in the middle of the formation. His body was burly, and his skin was covered with black dragon scales. He had a pair of black bone wings on his back, just like the legendary Asuras. He was the current leader of the demon race, the ancient demon emperor. The demon emperor was meditating, and the ball of bloody light floating above his head contained an ancient scepter that was about 5 feet long and as thick as an arm. The scepter was completely black, and its design was simple and mysterious. 2 dark red blood dragons were carved on the handle. At the top of the scepter was a majestic and domineering evil god with 3 heads and 6 arms. Chapter 899. Only the demon emperor was sitting alone in the dark and empty demon cave. However, his entire body was exuding a domineering aura that looked down on all living things. It was a majestic aura that looked down on the world, causing the entire demonic cave to be like the 9 underworld. It was eerie and terrifying to the extreme. That wisp of black smoke entered the cave and flew to the devil emperor, drilling into the devil god's scepter inside the blood-red light ball. In the next moment, the blood-colored ball of light suddenly disappeared, turning into a dark red light that retracted back into the demonic god's scepter. The demon god's scepter fell from the sky and stabbed into the ground in front of the demon emperor, remaining motionless. An illusory shadow was projected from the demon god's scepter, standing in front of the demon emperor. This black shadow was a tall and thin demon man wearing a black robe. If Ji Tianqing were here, he would be able to recognize it at a glance. It was none other than the great Jia Luo Brahma Soul Nightmare, the Nightmare Demon. Dream Demon bowed respectfully to the Demon King and said, "Greetings, Your Majesty. Your Majesty Demon Emperor, please punish me for my incompetence." The Dream Demon's posture was very pious. His voice and tone were low and vigorous, revealing a deep reverence. The Demon Emperor, who had been meditating, slowly opened his eyes. Purple devilish flames could be vaguely seen dancing in the 4 bell-sized eyes. His face was calm and emotionless as he said, "Dream Demon, you may rise." Nightmare maintained his bowing posture and did not dare to get up. He said in fear and trepidation, "Your Majesty Demon King, your subordinate did not complete the mission. I am willing to accept the punishment." The Demon Emperor said expressionlessly, "You don't have to blame yourself. That little demon girl is just an insignificant character. Don't worry about Ji Tianqing for the time being. I have my own plans." Nightmare immediately frowned when he heard that. He asked in confusion, "Your Majesty, what could be more important than capturing Ji Tianqing and seizing the Sword God's bloodline?" At this point, Nightmare paused for a moment. A thought suddenly occurred to him, and his expression changed drastically as he asked in an excited voice, "Your Majesty, could it be that the demon commander has already found out about that matter?" A playful sneer appeared on the demon emperor's face as he nodded. "That's right. The great demon commander is on his way to report back to me. He will report back to me soon." Nightmare's conjecture was confirmed, and his spirits were lifted. He said with joy, "That's great. For this matter, the great demon commander had traveled all over the continent and investigated for hundreds of years. Now, there was finally a result. If the Grand Demonic Marshal could find some clues about Goddess Yao Guang, it would be possible to resolve the curse that had plagued the demon race for nearly 10,000 years. If the bloodline curse can be broken, the demon race will be able to rapidly grow, multiply, and usher in the most brilliant glory. When he mentioned the ancient legend, the words Goddess Yao Guang and bloodline curse, Nightmare became very agitated. After all, that ancient legend was a shackle around the necks of all demons. The bloodline curse that came from a god was a pain that billions of demons would have to endure for eternity. If that shackle could be removed, the demon race would lose its shackles and obstacles. They would be able to develop rapidly and recover their most glorious state. It would not be a difficult thing to unify the Tian Xian land. The demon emperor also nodded to express his agreement. He said with a faint voice, "Although no one knows what happened in the ancient era 10,000 years ago, the demon god ancestor of the demon race never appeared. Many of the gods in the Tian Xian land also fell and disappeared. In the end, all of them disappeared. However, the ancient legend about the bloodline curse is real. According to the legend, Goddess Yao Guang hated my race to the bone. She sacrificed her life and burned her own godhead to gather the power of billions of stars to place an eternal curse on my race. The curse exists in the bloodline of each demon and lasts forever. It cannot be removed. Even I cannot do anything about it. As the people of the demon race grow, their body and appearance will change. They will become more hideous and ugly. The more powerful they are, the larger their body and the more hideous they are. They are hated and viewed as enemies by all races. On the night of the full moon, the bright moon shines in the sky and the 7 stars compete for brilliance. The people of the demon race will have to endure the heart-wrenching pain. They will be tortured to the point where they wish they were dead. This is the bloodline curse that Goddess Yao Guang placed on my race. However, this is definitely not the fate of my race." The demon emperor recounted the ancient legend. His tone was low and dignified, full of anger and unyielding. "Unfortunately, I was born in the wrong time. I was not born in the mysterious ancient era and could not witness the existence of the demon god ancestor and the god. Otherwise, I would have reached the immortal realm and compete with that damned Goddess Yao Guang. Humph. So what if she is a goddess? If I meet her, I will cut her down with my sword and grind her bones to dust." The demon emperor's eyes burned with purple soul fire. His entire body emitted an arrogant and domineering aura as if he was a god descending to the world. Looking at his high-spirited and domineering attitude, Dream Demon was instantly filled with admiration. He nodded excitedly and said, "That's right. Your Majesty Demon Emperor, since the ancient era, you are the most outstanding monarch and leader of our race. Your wisdom and talent are on par with our demon god ancestor. If you were born in the mysterious ancient era, you would definitely be able to compete with the gods and trample countless gods under your feet. If Goddess Yao Guang met you, she could only beg to surrender. How could she place an eternal curse on our race?" Dream Demon's fanatical worship of the Demon Emperor had reached an almost pious level. He flattered him without any reason. However, the Demon Emperor knew how terrifying the gods above the immortal realm were. Seeing that Dream Demon had gone overboard with his boasting, his expression became unnatural. He waved his hand and said, "Even the famous gods of the universe have fallen long ago and turned to dust. Let's not talk about those illusory legends. Let's wait for the demon commander to return and report the news." Dream Demon immediately nodded and stood respectfully to the side, waiting patiently. Not long after, the giant stone door of the demon cave opened. A ball of raging pitch-black demonic mist passed through the door like a streak of light and flew into the demonic cave. Whoosh! The surging devilish mist landed in front of the demon emperor, and immediately condensed into the form of a burly demon. This demon was more than 3 meters tall and had a strong body. He emitted a cold aura of death, as if he was a demon that walked out of hell. His entire body was covered in a cold, pitch-black armor. Only a pair of scarlet eyes could be seen, and not a single bit of skin or hair could be seen. Even his limbs were covered in black combat boots and black claw glove. His head was also covered by a demon helmet. It was said that the black armor he wore came from the 9th Underworld and was called the 9th Underworld Armor. He was the leader of the 6 demon commanders under the Demon Emperor, the most mysterious and powerful demon commander, Dark Knight. Other than the ancient Demon Emperor, no one had seen his true face. For hundreds of years, he had been wandering around the Tianxian land, trying his best to find clues about Goddess Yaoguang. Although he was not famous and did not have as many military exploits as the other demon commanders, he was still a demon commander. Chapter 900. Demon Commander Dark Knight looked at the Demon King and Dream Demon and bowed respectfully. Your subordinate Dark Knight greets your majesty. Greetings to Lord Dream Demon. His voice was deep and forceful, like the sound of metal clashing. There was even a faint echo. Such a peculiar voice made it impossible to tell his age, nor his joy or sorrow. This demon commander, who had been wrapped in the 9 underworld armor his entire life, seemed to be a machine born for slaughter, or perhaps it was more appropriate to call him a demon. The Demon King looked at him with shining eyes and nodded slightly. Great Demon Commander, you may rise. You sent a message to me earlier, saying that you found clues about Goddess Yaoguang. Report it quickly. As you command. Demon Commander Dark Knight hurriedly cupped his hands and saluted. Without any superfluous words, he immediately reported, for more than 600 years, this subordinate has been following His Majesty the Demon Monarch's orders to investigate Goddess Yaoguang and find a way to break the bloodline curse. Although in the ancient legends, Goddess Yaoguang sacrificed her life and burned her godhead and died, she was still a deity. However, she is a legendary deity. She won't die so easily. She will most likely reincarnate or leave behind some inheritance. The Demon King nodded and said with a solemn tone, That's right. How could a deity above the 9 heavens die so easily? Even if Goddess Yaoguang had truly died, she would have left behind her inheritance or the 7-star divine power. As long as we find her inheritance or obtain the 7-star divine power, we may be able to break the bloodline curse. Demon General Dark Knight listened in silence. After the demon monarch finished speaking, he continued to speak. I have spent hundreds of years traversing the entire profound sky continent, searching for every forbidden ground and ancient ruin. Fortunately, I have not failed you. I have finally found a clue. It is said that 1,000 years ago, Kenshin came across a Neptunian divine pearl in a secret forbidden ground in the eastern sea's returning ruins. It seemed to contain a strand of Goddess Yaoguang's soul. Kenshin heard of Goddess Yaoguang's legend and remembered her sacrifice to save the world. He used his great ability to place the Neptunian divine pearl on the 9 heavens platform in the depths of the eastern sea. Kenshin wants the Neptunian divine pearl to use the 9 heavens platform to absorb the power of the stars in outer space, so that it can be tempered by the lightning of the 9 heavens and be reborn as a human in the end. At this point, the Demon King furrowed his brows and growled, It's that bastard Kenshin again? The Neptunian divine pearl, the 9 heavens platform. 1,000 years ago, when I was at my peak, I also explored the 9 heavens platform. However, before I could ascend the altar, I was heavily injured by the divine lightning of the 9 heavens. Back then, I did not discover the Neptunian divine pearl on the altar either. Demon Commander Dark Knight explained in a hurry, Your Majesty, Kenshin placed the Neptunian divine pearl after you were suppressed. The Demon Emperor furrowed his brows, cold killing intent and hatred flashing in his eyes. However, he suppressed his anger and asked in a deep voice, What happened after that? Is the Neptunian divine pearl still on the 9 heavens platform? Obviously, it's gone. Demon Commander Dark Knight shook his head gently. He said sternly, 10 years ago, I went to explore the Nine Heavens platform. I did not dare to approach it, so I secretly observed it for a long time before confirming that the Neptunian divine pearl had vanished. I spent another 9 years looking for information and found out the reason a few months ago. Finally, I came to a conclusion. 20 years ago, a mysterious expert made it to the Nine Heavens platform alone and took away the Neptunian divine pearl. Afterwards, the mysterious expert returned to the central plane and vanished with the Neptunian divine pearl. The Demon King frowned in confusion when he heard that. Dream Demon could not help but be filled with doubt as well. He asked, Great Demon Commander, is this the result you speak of? If we can't find the Neptunian divine pearl, we still won't be able to get rid of the bloodline curse. Demon Commander Dark Knight remained as cold as ice. His body was as firm as a rock as he growled, After countless investigations and analyses, I've finally confirmed one thing. After returning to the central plane, it's extremely likely that the mysterious expert placed the Neptunian divine pearl in the body of a prodigy. As long as we find that woman, we'll be able to obtain the Neptunian divine pearl and use it for ourselves. The Demon King immediately narrowed his eyes. Violet flames flickered in his eyes as he sneered sinisterly, Humph, does that mysterious expert want the goddess of Yaoguang to be reborn in another body? 20 years ago, a prodigy within the central plane, the range of our search has been greatly reduced. It won't be difficult to find that woman. Great Demon Commander, have you found out who that mysterious expert is? Demon Commander Dark Knight shook his head gently and said indifferently, I once suspected someone, but I was unable to confirm it. After all, that person hasn't appeared for over 200 years. The Demon King raised an eyebrow and asked sternly, Are you talking about the patriarch of the monarch estate? Yes, Demon Commander Dark Knight nodded. The Demon King extended his hand and grasped the Demon God's scepter. He sneered, The patriarch of the monarch estate has vanished for over 200 years. It's very likely that he has left the profound sky continent. As a result, I've come to the central plane this time with the founding ancestor's Demon God scepter. I'll use this opportunity to bathe the central plane in blood and create an earth-shattering disaster there. I'll teach them an unforgettable lesson. I must obtain Ji Tianqing's Kenshin bloodline. And the Neptunian divine pearl, it's also mine. No one can stop the rise of our race. As he spoke, the Demon King's body exuded a formless, domineering aura. Dream Demon was excited and was about to praise him. However, Demon Commander Dark Knight's voice was cold and emotionless as he said, Your Majesty, I'm afraid this is inappropriate. Please reconsider. I've come to see Your Majesty today not only to report the news about the goddess of Yaoguang, but also to report a second piece of news. What is it? The Demon King immediately frowned and retracted his domineering aura. Demon Commander Dark Knight hurriedly reported, 5 days ago, the billions of netherworld bees under my control sent me strange news. I realized that something was amiss and took out the 10,000 soul banner. I used a secret technique to deduce the heavens and investigate the movements at the peak of the continent. I actually detected the aura of that expert. He seems to have returned to the profound sky continent. Demon Commander Dark Knight was the leader of the 6 great demon commanders and the expert that the ancient demon emperor valued the most. He was in charge of gathering information and investigating clues of ancient legends. He controlled the eyes and ears of the entire demon race. He reared billions of mysterious netherworld bees and spread them to every corner of the profound sky continent. They could monitor the movements of the entire continent and gather information about the major races and forces. Moreover, he also had the ancient treasure, the 10,000 soul banner. It could deduce the heavens and predict the future. It could also track the aura of experts and divine items from a distance. The Demon King and Dream Demon believed his words without a doubt. Their expressions changed on the spot. He's back? Chapter 901. In the current Tian continent, there was only one person who could make the ancient demon emperor fearful. That was the mysterious monarch Manor Lord. 1,000 years ago, the two most dazzling and top-notch experts on the continent were Kenshin and the ancient demon emperor. However, after the ancient demon emperor was suppressed and Kenshin left the Tian continent, the monarch Manor Lord became the publicly acknowledged #1 expert. The Manor Lord was extremely mysterious. Almost no one in the world had seen his true face. Even the experts of various races did not know whether the Manor Lord was a man or a woman, or what realm he was at. Only a few people had seen the Manor Head in action, but they had only caught a glimpse of it. But they were already shocked. It was because of the existence of the Manor Lord that the monarch Manor could control the entire Tian continent. No matter how powerful the races or forces were, even the imperial courts of various races were respectful to the monarch Manor and did not dare to disobey. Now, the Manor Lord, who had disappeared for more than 200 years, had returned to the Tian continent. How could the demon emperor not be shocked? How could he not be angry? He had only recovered his strength to the spirit refinement realm. It was impossible for him to massacre the central continent. Therefore, he brought the demon god scepter, hoping to use the power of this divine item to create a shocking massacre in the central continent. However, the Manor Lord had returned. Even if he had the demon god scepter, he was not the Manor Lord's match. He had been plotting and looking forward to this plan for a long time. He had to change it accordingly. Dream Demon's expression was extremely dark. He cursed in a low voice, "That damned Manor Lord! He actually returned at such a crucial time. Did he receive some news?" The demon emperor frowned and thought for a moment. He said with a serious expression, "The outside world said that the Manor Lord had disappeared for more than 200 years. We mistakenly thought that he had left the Tian continent. Now that he has suddenly appeared at such a crucial time, I suspect that he has never left the Tian continent. Or perhaps, he had already returned a few decades ago and had only been hiding in some forbidden ground." Thinking about it this way, the mysterious expert who took the Neptunian divine pearl 20 years ago is very likely him. Demon Commander Dark Knight said in a cold voice, "Your Majesty, in today's world, the Monarch Manor's master is the strongest. He has the deepest understanding of our race and is our strongest enemy. You must be careful when dealing with him." The Demon Emperor nodded and said expressionlessly, "That's right. With the Monarch Mansion's Lord overseeing the central continent city, it is indeed difficult for me to use my full strength." The Monarch Manor was a place where the elites of the various races gathered. It was the cradle of soul refinement realm cultivators and was regarded as the holy land of martial arts. Those so-called princes are the sharp blades used by the various races to deal with our devil race. I have thought of eradicating the imperial residence countless times and killing all the princes to prevent future troubles. Unfortunately, my strength has not yet recovered to its peak, so I can't attack the Monarch Mansion. Even without the Mansion Master, I can't do anything to the 10 God-tier masters in the imperial residence. Sigh. At this point, the Demon King was filled with resentment and helplessness. Nightmare hurriedly consoled, "Your Majesty, there is no need to worry. We can discuss this matter at length. After all, the Monarch Mansion is a top martial mansion that has been passed down since the ancient times. Its foundation is very strong, and it is not suitable for us to fight them head-on. The most important thing now is to find the Neptunian Divine Pearl and remove the bloodline curse on our race as soon as possible so that our people can grow stronger and recover to their peak state 1,000 years ago. Also, we have to take Ji Tianqing's Kenshin bloodline and help Your Majesty recover his strength as soon as possible. As long as we wait for another 10 years until Your Majesty recovers to the primordial soul realm, and our people grow stronger, It will be the best time for us to conquer the world and unify the profound sky continent. By then, even the monarch mansion that has been passed down since ancient times will have to kneel at your majesty's feet and beg for your majesty's surrender." The ancient demon emperor was silent for a moment before he said with a burning gaze, "That's right. My revenge and the revival of our race cannot be rushed. Since I can hide for 1,000 years, why not wait another 10 years? Let's do as Nightmare said. We will carry out the plan step by step and plan slowly. 10 years later, I will cleanse the world with blood and unify the profound sky continent." Demon General Ming Yi did not say much. He only cupped his hands respectfully and said in a deep voice, "Yes, Your Majesty." Dream Demon's face was filled with anticipation as he respectfully said, "I wish Your Majesty the best of luck in ascending to the pinnacle of the continent and establishing the immortal foundation of our race." 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. Ji Tianxing had been cultivating in seclusion in the secret chamber for 10 days. After 10 days of hard cultivation, his cultivation had improved, and his combat power had increased by a few %. He still had not formed the heart of the sword and had not reached Sky Origin Stage 9. However, after countless attempts, he could already fuse the sword embryo with his heart and achieve the heart of the sword. Unfortunately, he could only maintain it for a short period of time and could not fuse the sword embryo with his heart completely to form the heart of the sword. This was already a huge improvement. At least, he had stepped through the door of forming the heart of the sword and was about to touch the ultimate meaning of the heart of the sword. He believed that he would be able to form the heart of the sword in 2 to 3 months and reach Sky Origin Stage 9. On the 11th day, early in the morning, when he was cultivating in the secret chamber, someone knocked on his door. With a clear sound of dang, 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 the stone door of the secret chamber lit up with dazzling 5-colored spiritual light. Ji Tianxing was immediately awakened, and he quickly ended his cultivation. After he finished cultivating, he waved his hand and shot out a beam of 5-colored spiritual light into the dark stone door. After the stone door of the secret chamber was opened, he stood up and walked out of the secret chamber. A beautiful woman in a long white dress was standing outside the door. She was Yun Yao. Yun Yao saw him coming out of seclusion. She hurried to greet him and said happily, "Tianxing, I have good news for you, so I came to knock on your door. Did I disturb your cultivation?" Ji Tianxing held her hand and shook his head with a smile. "Of course not. Yao Yao, what good news makes you so happy?" As the two of them spoke, they left the secret chamber and walked out. Yun Yao was in a good mood. She said happily, "Last night, Master and Great Elder came to Zhongzhou City. They are now living in Qingfeng Garden. The Beast King sent someone to tell us that they are staying in Qingfeng Garden. Tianxing, we haven't seen Master and Great Elder for a long time. Let's go to Qingfeng Garden to see them later, shall we?" "Master and Old Master Xiang are here so soon?" Ji Tianxing raised his eyebrows and revealed a surprised expression. He said joyfully, "Master and Old Master Xiang have come from afar to attend our wedding banquet in the Central Plains. Of course, we have to go and welcome them." Then he left Tianxing Palace with Yun Yao and rushed to the exit of the monarch mansion.